Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Type 40 Live here and the console room, ready for another live stream extravaganza as the nights draw in. Well, they've drawn in, haven't they? It seems to be so dark pretty early on in the afternoon today. Yes, the nights have drawn in, whatever time zone or time stream you're in. Yes, welcome back. Wherever you are across the Whooniverse, it's time for Type 40 Live. This is our live streamed Doctor Who content just for you and you and you and you and you. With me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and my assorted companions. They're going to be along in a moment, and all of you watching out there on YouTube and Facebook Live. Of course, YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform. Everybody there. Keep the comments coming in the live chat and in the comments section afterwards, and you can like the video in advance. I know this is going to be a good one. If you're watching on Facebook, don't forget, let Facebook know who you are. Then Facebook can tell StreamYard, and StreamYard can tell us, and we can all have a lovely, great big conversation and be on first name terms, because that's how we like it here at Type 40 Live. Speaking of which, who else is here with us so far? Early start for Crimpling Doubloon. He's dropped anchor early with an ahoy shipmate. I don't know where we'd be without that as our first. Good to see you, Crimpling. Lord Thoth says, hi, everyone. Hello, Lord Thoth. Good to see you too. What are we a lord of? You've never confirmed this. We need to know, ideally, before Christmas. We need an answer on that, I think. Evening all from our friend Garbage. Good to see you too with Storm Dalek there. And who else? Good evening, folks, from Richard Brooks. Sausage party, says Lord Thoth. Well, speak for yourself. The night is young. And who else have we got? The Darren Zone. Good to see you too. Hail and greetings to all. Good to see you. And evening. Timeless child, anyone? Well, I've been called a gormless child in the past. That's not the same thing? Or maybe it is, actually. Good evening, Spacebook. Good evening, lovely people in the chat. Hope you're having a lovely Thursday from Digby Strawbridge. I've never been able to get the hang of Thursdays myself. There's something about them, because you're after hump day, but it's still not quite the weekend, is it? Never really quite sure. What do you think, Charlotte Shields?
Well, Thursdays are now my Type 40 days because I'm on the live stream. So it's made them a bit more exciting, I'll say that much.
Which is the right answer, everybody. So please like the video, just as the lady says. Subscribe to the channel too, particularly if this is your first time with us, because you're not going to want to miss all the other live streams that are going to come afterwards and the ones that have come before. Go and check out our playlists. And please hit the little bell too, that little cloister bell, so you get those notifications about when we're doing whatever we're doing next. So how's the last 7 days been for you then, Charlotte?
Well, last Sunday could have been better. I'll just say that. And could have been a lot better. Could have been better written. But except from that, I've had a good week.
Oh dear, where to start? We'll definitely be touching on some of that as the show goes along. We've got hello all from the classic 80s fanboy. Speaking of 80s fanboys, I think that's a good cue to bring in the original Lunatic and 80s survivor, Mr. Simon Horton. Yes, Simon, you okay?
Hello. I seem to be having problems with my internet this evening. Can everybody hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. What can I do? Listen, Dan, I've got to say, because I've just spotted in the chat, I have to say a huge hello to Adam Birch, one of the very, very original Lunatics, along with me. Adam, who used to literally live just up the road from me. And we used to meet all the time, and now he lives out in the USA, out in Pittsburgh. And I think I could be right in saying this is his very first time here at Type 40. So Adam Birch, well, hey, hello, mate. It's lovely to have Adam back on board. So he's one of the original. So it's good to see you.
And you're dressed
hello to everybody else. Sorry. Hello to everybody else.
You're dressed a little bit like Nick Haywood this evening, or one of the other members of Haircut 100. I think so.
Jumpers. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've got my. I've got my. Christmas has arrived in my house. I don't care. As soon as first of December. Well, in fact, it went up at the weekend. So I've got all my decks up. Got my Christmas mug. Hey! Look at this. Are you ready for this? You're going to like this. Are you ready for this? Ooh.
Oh.
This is my new little Christmas deck. Look at that.
Oh,
Isn't that
that
sweet?
is absolutely gorgeous. Does it make the dematerialization and rematerialization noise?
It doesn't, but I can.
Looks like
No, I'm not going to do it for you. I'm
we
not
can
going to
do
do
it
that.
yourself. We can
You can do
that
it
for
yourself.
ourselves, can't we?
But the colours inside change, so it's like a sort of a disco doctor in there. You know, so I got my Christmas decks up. So Christmas has arrived for me here. So
absolutely wonderful. I'm just wondering whether Christmas has arrived yet in the Doctor Who loft with our friend JT, and if it's started to warm up there, let's go and check in with him up in Scotland, see how he's faring.
Has Christmas arrived up here? It sort of has, because the tree's out of the loft.
that's
and it's there. Yeah, and the boxes are sort of coming out from over that side of the room. Yeah. But apart from that, nothing's been done because I've been so busy this week. I've been very, very busy with lots of different things. So hello, everybody. Hi, Spacebookers. Nice to see you all. Hope you are well.
And of course, if you remember last week, 7 days ago, Ian the Mega Geek, David Diaz, he was already singing the Christmas songs back in November. So by now, it could be New Year for all we know for him. Let's just find out now whether he's actually touching 2022 yet.
Depends how many cornetos he has.
Hello, mate. Good to see you. You okay?
I'm all right. I'm glad JT's got his tree out. So, yeah.
It's there. It's just not decorated yet. It'll get done at the weekend.
Hey? I was about to say that, but I wasn't going to go there. I wasn't going to go there.
Well, I think most of us are layering up in one way or another because, it's definitely getting colder. We're layering up. And so I think is the esteemed 6th Doctor, Colin Baker. Check this out. This is what looks certain to be Colin Baker out on location wearing a very familiar blue cloak. Now, this is the one that's worn in Revelation of the Daleks, isn't it? So, I think between us we can work out, surely, JT, this must be content for an upcoming Blu-ray set.
Absolutely. This appeared a couple of weeks ago now on various aspects. It was I can't remember. We did have the credits, so I'm sorry to the fellow who took this picture. He took it from his work because they were actually filming at the same place that they filmed Revelation of the Daleks. So it's a real safe bet to know what's coming very shortly next year, isn't it?
I would say they're probably filming the trailer. I would guess any money that'll be the trailer for season 22. At a rough guess for the Blu-ray.
I think you could be right. I'm trying to work out whether that is Nicola stood next to him or somebody else.
We're not sure.
Doesn't look like Nicola somehow, doesn't? No, it must be Nicola. Surely.
You really can't tell, though.
You can't tell.
Can you? It's too far out.
She's got lots. She appears to be wearing 3 sets of headgear there.
Well, it was cold.
It was indeed. So if you were there, if you know anything about this, and if you can confirm the identity of Colin's companion there, I'd like to. It has to be Nicola.
Might be the makeup girl. You never know.
And it's interesting, because that the blue cloak, I know certainly up until a year or so ago was residing in the Time Machine Museum in the Bromyard. Not far away. I remember going a couple of years back, and I was amazed to discover that they got the blue cloak in there. Yeah. So I'm guessing they literally must have borrowed that from the Bromyard Time Machine Museum.
Interesting. Who knows what's happened? Who knows? So we've got season 17. That's out in around 3 weeks. 2.5 weeks time. Season 17.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we haven't got any further ones confirmed yet, have we?
Nope, nothing's confirmed yet at all. There are rumours that there's going to be an announcement before Christmas, but it's only rumours, isn't it? And then even then, it's probably going to be one of the re-releases, to be perfectly honest.
I'd say so.
Which is fine with me. I'm happy.
Richard Books is chipping in with the Christmas decorations conversation. He says,
hello,
I
Richard.
have a light-up tiny tree that does the job, and it's got good, fond memories attached to it. Yeah,
move
very
on.
nice.
Yeah. Perfect.
Could it be Katie Manning? Asks Digby Strawbridge. But why?
What in the tree?
Anybody but Nicola. Yes. Yeah, who knows?
Christmas angel, JT.
She is, though, isn't she? She's lovely. And to be quite honest, she's as mad as a box of rabbits, so she would be in a tree at any point now anyway.
I think she's probably been accused of being off her tree several times.
Bless her. We love her.
What I want to talk about as well, before I forget, is something we talked about a little last week, JT. We were speculating about Daleks, particularly Daleks that had been in remembrance of the Daleks, that 1988 story. And we were looking at some artwork by the Prydonian, weren't we? Which was the white and gold livery that we're all used to from that story. And you left us with the bombshell that originally there was a completely different colour scheme to those Daleks. Yeah. We couldn't remember quite what it was, how it looked or whatever else. But you did go and look it up for us and you found some artwork that illustrates how they considered it to be before the screened version. So this is the original. This is courtesy of the Mind Robber, fantastic digital artist on the internet. They've got their own website. It's more than a social media thing, the Mind Robber.
Absolutely.
And this is their rendering of what the original Daleks in remembrance were meant to look like. Check it out.
There we go.
Ooh, that's
Very
cool.
There we go. And I seem to recall the reason why they didn't get to that color. Somebody somewhere, and I'm sure that John, Nathan Turner was part of this as well. Political parties, red and the blue.
Of course.
Of course, that would have. Back in the day when the BBC used to stay clear of everything political, it would have been a big problem for them, wouldn't it? Yeah,
but I think Ben had originally scripted them as being blue and silver and black and red. But don't they look gorgeous? And if they had been on screen like that, that would have, well, it just would have looked amazing, wouldn't it?
There is something about that. I mean, I love the white and gold myself. But the other Daleks, the blue and what colour are they? Sort of like a murky blue, aren't they, with black domes? I always think they look a little bit ramshackle, like they're a little worse for wear. So it's not hard.
Just remember, this is the Mind Robber's interpretation of what they would have looked like. It might have looked it would have looked different on screen because the BBC couldn't afford a Dulux paint. Never mind anything else. But
thanks for finding that for us, because it had stuck in my mind that, and you do wonder how things could have looked.
And it's interesting because the red and black Dalek, I mean, that's basically the Weetabix Dalek and the blue and silver one. I seem to remember, isn't that basically the livery that's on the back of the Radio Times 20th anniversary special, or very close to it, very similar?
Yeah, because that one came from the Madame Tussauds exhibition.
That's right.
Yeah,
and it looks like my school in the background. Looks like my school.
That's the Cole. That's supposed to be the Coal Hill School, isn't it? Yeah. So, but there we go. So that was what that was all about. I'll just say hello to Problem Being and to Garbage there. So hiya, and everybody else. Hello,
people
Facebook.
Rolling in. As Vanessa Law says, please.
And Vanessa,
hit that
hello, Vanessa.
Subscribe and hit the cloister bell too. Problem Being is here. And
hello, Problem Being.
Several other people. Retro Dickie's here too.
Hello,
and
Retro
Peter
Dickie.
Harrington. Good to have you with us too,
Peter.
Peter.
Oh, it's great to have Peter here because Peter's been contributing lots on the YouTube channel with lots of comments. So we like those. So keep those comments coming. We love them.
We'll just say hello to Peter and say, all right, La, how you doing, Lacey? All right.
Peter's one of several people blowing up our comment section. We really do appreciate all that interaction, all those questions, all those comments. There's some big ideas in that comment section. So get in there, get stuck in, and exchange ideas with Peter and various other people, because there's so much in there. And we've got several other people here. We've got Mina Vader here, says,
hello, Melina.
Everyone.
I've got to sort of put my head on one side to see Melina. Great.
Moons of Madness.
Oh, look, he's got Bill with a lovely little Santa hat on. Yeah,
that's good.
Sorry, but
Happy Christmas.
The Talons of Wayne Chiang says Christmas lights are on, and they're watching Planet of Evil.
Love the Planet of Evil. That scared me as a little boy when it was first on, especially that great big pit, and get chills.
Yeah,
it was the original pit before the creature from the pit came in and gave pits not a bad name,
pit.
Yes,
the Satan pit. That scene in the Satan pit when the Doctor's falling, that always reminds me of
me
Planet
too.
Of Evil. They ripped that off from Planet of Evil.
Absolutely, they tried to recreate that, and it wasn't quite like because they didn't have red and green lighting.
Exactly, no disco lights. Didn't work without disco lights.
No, Doctor Who definitely has pits sewn up, really. There's a story that's broken in the last 36 hours that I thought that it would be remiss of us not to mention, because we've been talking about, as we keep reminding you guys, we've been talking about this story probably for longer than anybody else, because I think we saw it coming for longer than anybody else, to be brutally honest. We've had the news that, somebody has bought Bad Wolf Studios. Now, we made a plea directly to the lovely Julie Gardner, and it's because she listened, because she watches the show,
Julie.
we think.
Hello.
Hi, Julie. Thank you, and please save Doctor Who for us. So, yes, Julie Gardner.
Semi-discovery of Witcher Series 3, Julie. Thanks very much.
Yeah, so they stepped in, haven't they? And they're taking over the production of Doctor Who from 2023 onwards with Russell T Davies. So here they are, is Julie and Jane.
And
they're looking.
They look absolutely gorgeous. I mean, obviously, what happened? They went to America and they came back looking like Amazon glamour bookers. What is going on?
Movie stars. So it's been confirmed this week that Sony Pictures or Sony Studios, I think it is Sony Pictures, isn't it? They have secured the ownership, really, of Bad Wolf Studio. They are majority shareholders now in the studios. So that's the studio itself. And
they've taken a stake. That's what they say, isn't it? They've taken a stake, Dan.
Yeah, it's the largest stake. HBO Max, they still own a certain proportion of it. But back, I think it was last February or March time, that was when Bad Wolf was officially listed as effectively for sale. So that doesn't mean that the BBC aren't still connected to it, and it certainly doesn't mean that Julie and Jane and everybody else there aren't still involved with it. In fact, we know they are, because it was last week that Whooniverse 1, that was registered as a new concern, as a new business with Companies House. We were right on that, and it's got these two ladies both listed there as MDs, I think it was, something like that. So the future is looking, the future's starting to take shape, and I don't know how much editorial control Sony would look to wield over any individual property that Bad Wolf themselves may be producing content around. I don't know if that's small fry for them. I don't know. But then again,
if they know what's good for them, they'll leave them alone, wouldn't they? If they know what's good for them,
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. Looking at Jane Tranter, I wouldn't argue with Jane Tranter. I'd be like, yeah, look, you can have anything you like.
Yeah.
So, Ian, how aware do you think a studio like Sony are going to be aware of Doctor Who as a brand, both its history and where it is now? What's your instincts about that?
They know nothing. They know nothing. But you know what, right? The worst thing that could happen is that they try to grasp creative control to try and slot it into the American way of thinking. That's the worst thing that can happen. But hopefully they will step back and realize that it's a British thing, and the British thing should be solidified in Doctor Who, and just let them do their thing and just believe in them and have faith in them. But you never know. We never thought that Chinball would come and destroy Doctor Who, did we? But he did. So, you never know. So
true, it's true.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they are buying a British production company. And I think you wouldn't, they won't, I agree. I don't think they'll know all the ins and outs, because they're such a big. And
what year do you live in, Charlotte? Don't you know this is 2021? Do you know the agenda? Do you know this? Do you know?
Do you know though?
But do you know what? Sony have just done Ghostbusters.
Yes,
and that was a deliberate move to go against going overly.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. I mean, I agree, Charlotte, and that's what I was thinking about this week. I mean, Sony had their fingers burnt very badly in 2016, and they heard. And out of all the production companies in Hollywood, I would say Sony are the least woke, because they listened to the Ghostbusters fan. They looked at the sales figures of that film in 2016, and they listened. And they were very, very, sort of careful with the latest Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is brilliant, by the way. I absolutely loved that film. How do we greet as well? How do we greet in there? But don't tell anybody.
You big softy.
Well, I just thought, that's so nicely done, and I'm not like that. I'm not like that at all. But I just thought, oh bless, that's something lovely. And if anyone was going to do this, I would disagree that they're not aware of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who is huge in the industry, and it's huge around the world now. Everybody has heard about Doctor Who. The BBC studios have given their due. They've done a fantastic job since 2006 of marketing this thing across the world. I mean, it's been at Comic-Con now. William Shatner's aware of Doctor Who, for crying out loud. There are production people that do know about it. So I would think they're aware of it, but I'm sure and this is where we won't know, and we don't need to know, and we shouldn't necessarily know unless they want us to, because they're a private business. I'm sure the deal is good for Bad Wolf. It's good for the people in Bad Wolf, and I think the creativity will stay with the likes of Julie and Jane.
I hope so.
I'd like to think so. We've got a quote here from Wayne Garvey, who is Sony Pictures Television's president of international production. That sounds really important, doesn't it?
That sounds like a lot of money there. Is he single?
It does. And he says that Bad Wolf had established itself as one of the world's most admired drama producers in the blink of an eye. Jane and her team have built a tremendous business and established Wales as a home for some of the most fantastic tales of the age. And now we aim to help them build still further. Jane Tranter steps in with the last 5 years have been hugely rewarding an experience as we have built a production infrastructure and a creative community based out of Wolf Studios, Wales, that could compete with any TV production in the world. Sony Pictures Television share our vision for the company going forward, and their immediate understanding and belief in the ethos of Bad Wolf make them perfect partners for our future.
Well,
it's big talk, isn't it, Simon?
Yeah, well, it is big talk. And I mean, the one thing that I would say is that we've got to remember here, this is Sony. And so although I would hope that they wouldn't sort of get their fingers too stuck in there, I would imagine that they would look at the current series, for example, or if they were to look at the current series, they'd just throw it out. They would say, look, you can't do that because this is Sony. This isn't the BBC. They're a completely different kettle of fish. And I honestly think that they just wouldn't allow their name to be anywhere remotely associated with the kind of Doctor Who that we've been having recently, because it's so insularized, for want of a better word. And so I think
commercially unsuccessful and a completely critical disaster.
It's literally shooting yourself in the foot. And so I just think that, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm optimistic that Sony, I just don't think would allow that to happen. And I can see there's various people in the thread who are chatting now and sort of a bit, being really, their confidence is knocked. They're not optimistic about the future. They're nervous about the future. The various people in the thread are saying it's doomed. It's never. I just disagree with this so totally. Trust me, guys. Trust me on this. Doctor Who will come back. Believe me, it will come back from this. They will ignore the rubbish that Chibnall has put out to do with the Timeless Children and all that. They won't retcon it. They'll just ignore it.
It'll be inconsequential to them. The things that have kept us awake at night or put us off our dinner, JT, it's going to be nothing to people like Mr. Garvey, aren't they?
So trust me, it will come back again. Trust me on this.
Well, the first thing is, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on about this news on YouTube with and various Doctor Who fan YouTubers are just saying what they want to say, and it's not backed up with any evidence. It's not clear. There's no clarity to it. It's just absolute fan nonsense. And then and it's no wonder the community is all over the shop, is it really, Spacebookers? Yeah. Because they're listening to all these kids having all this stupidity. This deal is nothing to do with Doctor Who. This is to do with Bad Wolf as a production unit and as a company. And Julie and Jane, and maybe some other people that we don't know about, have made a decision that's good for their company, Bad Wolf. It's got nothing to do with Doctor Who. Secondly, what Simon's just been saying there as well, I wish I could at this point in time actually agree with what you're saying there. I can't. I'm currently so fatigued over this bloody show. I am not interested. As I've said before, with Russell Don't Drop the Tease rant a few weeks ago, I'm really, really not interested in what's going to come. I don't feel the energy. I don't feel the pizzazz. I don't feel that they're going to necessarily get it right. But, all credit due to Julian Jane and Bad Wolf and the Sony deal. If it's good for their business, good on you. Well done.
Well, all I would say is just as a very, very quick rider to that, JT. I agree. As other people have maybe might already know, I'm very, very much not in favour of Russell coming back because I really think we needed a new broom to come in and sweep clean. So all I am saying is, whether or not it's Russell that reinvigorates the show or Jane or whoever it is, all I am saying is, trust me, Doctor Who will come back. It survived worse in the past, and it will get over the Chibnall era, and it will come back stronger. It might.
I hope so.
10 years, don't know, but it will come back.
What stuck in my throat a little bit about the way this was covered is that, as you said, JT, this isn't really Doctor Who news. It may have some effect on it, but certain pages, certain entertainment commentators at big mainstream places like Radio Times, they picked up on this news and they took the sort of the general gist of it, but included no quotes in their report at all, and just filled up their article with a load of absolute nonsense about what this means for Doctor Who, about what they will take forward, and it was all reported as fact. I mean, I posted it over to the Type 40 Facebook group and immediately regretted it when you actually read through, because it was just their reporter's opinion, and it became quite clear that this reporter who was talking about this subject knew absolutely nothing about it.
Well, nobody will, because
they've done their due diligence, and they put a link in back to the original artline, the original Deadline article. So that's what we've gone directly to here to get it from the horse's mouth. Because I haven't had much time in the last 24 hours, but I know how this will be reported. Radio Times is still a kind of go-to Doctor Who place. I think old habits die hard, and they've got this connection with Doctor Who, and people will go and they will look to them thinking they know what they're talking about, and they do not know what they're talking about any more than certainly such as ourselves, the five of us, and maybe you two out there, to be truthful. I don't think anybody at Radio Times really, with the exception of maybe Patrick, has any credibility at all anymore. I certainly wouldn't listen to them. I'd be bookmarking other sites as regard this news. They're as in the dark as anybody else, probably more so.
Well, it's like thinking Digital Spy is relevant. I mean, look who writes for Digital Spy. Do me a favour.
Yeah, but it's not just that. The problem is, because we have a current regime which hates to give anything away, which keeps everything cloak and dagger, which will literally, it's almost like to hurt itself, it will not interact with the press anymore. Like we even said at the beginning of when Flux started, we even had TV guides saying we've not been sent the episode, so we can't tell you what it's like. So the problem is, because we've got that sort of atmosphere, any bit of news now, and because bits and bobs are coming through from Russell, they're going for it, they're jumping on it because they haven't got anything else to talk about. Yeah,
you're right. It's also a blatantly desperate attempt to keep the show in the public eye in this time.
Yes.
And to justify always to justify Whittaker and Chibnall, and to big them up, and the propaganda's intense. We all know that. We all see it. It's intense, but it's all propaganda. But it's a shame that the Bad Wolf thing, in a sense, was leaked or was announced as early as it was, because this is the sort of thing they don't necessarily need in the public eye, because it's nothing to do with the public. They're a private business, and they can do what they want to with that. It's not the BBC. They don't have to be accountable every 20 seconds.
The story about Bad Wolf being up for sale, basically, that was in broadcast.
No one would have cared
in February, and nobody really cared. I used to work on broadcast. I'm a subscriber to their newsletter, so I was aware of it, but obviously they weren't involved in Doctor Who there. In fact, I think that may have been what got me thinking when we first started talking about it on here and making our plea to you, Julie.
and just how good the quality of their products are. And I'm going to say it again, Discovery of Witches Series 3. Send me the whole series before it comes out, because I need it. I really need the series.
We've got several people talking about Doctor Who as an intellectual property, and with its cultural relevance and unique selling points. Talking about that in the chat, and will they look after this? Will they be aware of that? I think they will be. I certainly think they will make themselves aware if they are not already. The article just finishes off with this one final quote. It says the acquisition is in keeping with Sony's strategy to expand its UK production portfolio and volume of IP. In the last 2 years, the outfit has acquired children's indie Silvergate Media. I've not heard of those. The sports and factual producer Whisper, and the producers of Sex Education. That's a big show for Netflix, isn't it? Called 11. So I don't know who they are, but that was a big show. Gillian Anderson's in there, isn't she?
Yep.
Yeah, although the last series was awful. It was woke as hell. I suppose that had to happen with the context of that, but I gave up around about episode 3 or 4. I thought, I can't do this. They've ruined it. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, we've all got our opinions, haven't we? I think that the idea of Sony being involved now, I was much more for HBO Max, because obviously that's part of Warner's. Warner's has got that history with Doctor Who, the distributor through Time Life, all those decades, all through the 80s, and was it Lions? What were they called? Lion, the original distributor.
Lionsgate, Lions.
Something like that. Lionsgate. It's another company now entirely. And for tradition's sake. And you do worry when you see a name like Sony sort of hovering over Doctor Who, don't you, Ian? Because, it's Sony, Warner, Paramount, and Disney in particular. There's several people in the chat saying, at least it's not Disney. But it could potentially be interesting, particularly in the afterglow of Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think that's put a smile on faces young and old. So I can't help but be optimistic about this going forward.
I hope so. I really do hope so. I hope that they don't interfere. There is a chance they can interfere, but I hope
of course
they
there's always a chance.
Yeah, and also, JT and Simon really, it feels like to me they're done with Doctor Who, but I'd like to have faith, and I'd like to hope that when they do bring it back, it'll be fresh and new, and and it would please JT and Simon, and they go forward. Yeah, I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So we can get JT back into the fold and talk about the new Doctor Who. Do you know what I mean?
As I've said, they have to really, if they want to make money, which is what they will want to do now. And they have to make money to justify this deal, and they will want merchandise coming. They need to have it popular. It must be popular so that people like myself and you guys and the Space Bookers and the kids all go out and buy the massive merchandise that I am expecting to happen from 2023 onwards. I'm also expecting it to up its game and be more of a quality of merchandise rather than the dregs of tat we've been fed over the last 3 years.
I say it'll be worthy for the international staging. I mean, there's been some nice merchandise out certainly for Ghostbusters Afterlife. I don't know what other TV shows Sony are involved in. We've got William Jennings.
We've got Spider-Man, haven't they?
Chat here on YouTube.
Coming
Spider-Man's the big one. Yeah. We're going to touch on that in a couple of minutes. Is Bad Wolf's creative control of Doctor Who a permanent status, or is it licensed, leased from the BBC?
We don't know.
We don't know, William. Yeah, this is one of the things.
My instinct is that this is long term because production has been shut down in that one facility, Simon.
But I still can't imagine that the BBC would just basically have signed it away for, 10 years.
No chance.
I would have thought they would maybe be on, say, a 3-year license or something like that. Would be I'd agree. I would say 5 actually for production with 1 year pre-production. I would say 5 year and then a review because that's business for you. There's no way the BBC are going to let their biggest gold mine after Top Gear and Strictly go full wing. But again, William, one of the things is we don't necessarily need to know the details, or we may never know the details of that now because it's no longer in the public domain.
We've got, I think,
the house down, didn't it?
Garbage says that all our fingers are crossed, and I'd certainly mine. I remain largely very, very optimistic about all this.
I remember hope. I remain hopeful. Certainly. I mean, I'm really sort of fed up the number of people. Nobody here present, by the way, but the number of people that complain to me and say, "Oh, if you're not enjoying it, stop watching it." It's really hard to stop watching it. I really
no, it's not. No, it's not.
No, it's not. I agree with Ian.
All right, no, you're quite right. It's hard to stop watching it. I'm going to rephrase that. What I mean is, I'm constantly optimistic that one of these days I will fall in love with Doctor Who again. If you know what I mean. So I'm not done. I don't think I'll ever be done with Doctor Who. I think I'll always have that glimmer at the back of my mind that is just praying that the next series actually will be decent and will be worth watching.
The next series needs to be Doctor Who. That's all there is to it.
Yes, absolutely.
It just needs to be Doctor. Take it back and bring Doctor Who back.
Before we move on to the next topic, let's look at this from David J. Hitchcock, who's watching on YouTube and says, "Hi, David. Hi, David. Good to see you. I think that Russell T. Davies will recreate Doctor Who, not reboot." And he's gone into greater detail. It says recreate as in a new series called Doctor Who with a new First Doctor, maybe not even from Gallifrey, maybe not even a Time Lord, etc.
No, it has to be. If he's going for recreation, he has to get the core things of Gallifrey and Time Lord.
Yeah.
I think considering the reaction that Chibnall has got, those are the things that I'm seeing people repeat, that whatever that basically people are saying, I don't care what Chibnall says, the Doctor's from Gallifrey, the Doctor's the Time Lord. Those are the two things I keep seeing. So I think I won't put it past Russell to maybe do his first Doctor and try and completely clean slate it. But then is that any better than what Chibnall's doing? That's the problem.
The thing with that, Charlotte, is we know that they are going to go for this sort of multi-universe, multi-program, maybe even a whole channel of shows, which if you do that, I think they've missed the opportunity to do that personally. If they do that, then you're starting from day one, and therefore you've got to build everything again. You don't therefore necessarily have the rights to go and look at Tegan or K9 or whoever, because you've wiped all that clean.
So
I think
the legacy to basically.
I think they'll build on the legacy, especially as they're starting in the 60th anniversary year, and it has been billed as a 60th anniversary special to celebrate the Doctor, the Daleks, the TARDIS, and that sort of stuff. I think if they were going to reboot it, I think Russell missed his chance, because I've said before on this show, had they done this in 2004 to 2005 and said, right, this is a brand new show, this is Doctor One, day one, on the run, blah, 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 we wouldn't be having all these conversations now, because had they changed the gender of the character, we wouldn't be able to say, oh, well, that's not allowed because we've had over 50 years of it, because it would have only been 14 years and it would have been able. But I think the more likely, and what I hope they do, and touch wood they do, is just ignore things, as Dan's saying, that, it's not going to be.
Do you know what, right? There are thousands of ways to retcon the retcon. I don't
go to the energy though. Why go to the effort?
I tell you why we should go for the energies, because Chibnall did, and now somebody with imagination to come in and go, right, bang, that's gone.
Yeah, but Ian, do you know what?
That'd be better.
No one apart from a few fans gives a toss, because nobody's watching. The British public are not watching the show. To the British public, the Doctor is always going to be a loony in a scarf and a hat, running around fighting Daleks in a phone box. That's what it is.
Let's move things on a little bit, because I think that's the ideal point to bring in the big discussion that I wanted to bring to you guys. So we talked a little bit there about Bad Wolf and Judah Gardner and Jane Tranter, and we heard last week how they'd registered Whooniverse 1.
It's like 3 condoms.
How they'd registered Whooniverse 1 as a company, and to do what we don't know. We've all got our thoughts there about what that might be, particularly in light of what Russell T Davies said about his comments about expansion, exploitation of fictional universes, and looking across to other franchises such as the MCU, and I'm thinking the Arrowverse in particular. Yeah. But the term, the phrase that's on everybody's lips and that was uttered for the very first time in Doctor Who on TV Sunday just gone, the word is multiverse. And I think that to a lot of geeks, that's sort of ringing in our ears a lot at the moment. But a lot of normies, they may even have heard it and have seen it maybe, but not really be sure what it means. I don't know, could have them scratching their heads. But I think that things are about to change up quite considerably in that respect. With the opening of the new Spider-Man movie, which I think is due next week. This is Spider-Man No Way Home. It's in cinemas on the 16th of December there. And this is Sony and Marvel's third sort of collaborative effort. And the idea with this movie is that it's still going to star Tom Holland and Benedict Cumberbatch is the guest star in this with him, the Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Not just bringing in other characters from across the MCU, the film series that has been going for. I do not know. That does not look like Spider-Man to me. But this series has been running for about 13 years now. But with this, they are bringing across elements from previous Spider-Man movies that predate the MCU that take place in sidewards fictional universes when the Spider-Man films starred the likes of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. So we've got, you saw on the poster there, those are the tentacles of Dr. Octopus, as played originally by the actor Alfred Molina back in 2002-ish. So he's back in this new film playing the same part, but opposite Tom Holland. So this is the exploitation, the expansion of a multiverse within the MCU. And just in case people are wondering, what on earth is a multiverse?
What is a multiverse, please?
Multipass.
A multiverse is an infinite number of multiple parallel universes that comprise the whole of reality in some quantum and cosmological theories. So multiverse is a thing. This is something that real scientists are speculating about, talking about, discounting, trying to prove and disprove. So this is the thing, that there could be other Earths and other realities out there. And I think that when it comes to fiction, obviously this is ideal when you look at popular culture and intellectual properties that have rolled on for decades. And they're always looking for the next the next thing, the next buzz, the next way of whipping up sensation, because that's what that's all about, really, isn't it? With Spider-Man, the idea of seeing Alfred Molina back as Dr. Octopus, it's going to excite a lot of people. And
member berries.
Well, they are, but you could say, is it any more of a member berry than the Three Doctors, or or stretching back, bringing together Abbott and Costello,
so much better
against Frankenstein and all that. So crossing over, blending, mashing up, whatever you want to call it. It's sort of like a new.
You see, it's funny because I really don't care about. I don't care whether it is a multiverse, whether it isn't. Stories, good stories. That's where it begins and ends. I don't care what crossover there is with what weapons Dalek into a new. I don't care about any of it. Are the stories good? That's what we need to get back to. I think there's this terrible tendency in genre sci-fi these days to just get tied up in all of this stuff. And the Star Wars universe is the absolute prime example of this, where they've just completely messed it up. And they've got so tied up in the excitement of this weird crossover, multi-dimensional universe that they're creating, and they've forgotten that actually all you need are damned good stories, and that's what we need. I don't care whether it is a crossover or not. Just please, just write some good stories.
Absolutely. One of the things I'm always worried about, as Facebookers will know, is. I mean, this is pure fan nonsense. I mean, it's all right if you're a real hardcore Anunnaki geek with a cap, but you know what? I mean, the public are not going to get this sort of stuff.
They don't care.
I don't care. I mean, I think a lot of the seeds of this were sown in the comic book world. DC Comics, they have made it their stock trade, really. It's probably their USP, and has been since the 60s, when they first decided they wanted the Justice League characters that sort of came to prominence in the early 60s to meet their World War II counterparts. And ever since then, the DC universe has sort of expanded, so there are multiple variations. Well, they didn't run out of ideas. I think what it was is that the original generation of comic book buyers, Ian, that was around the time of the Second World War, they grew up and had families of their own, and post-war comic books expanded dramatically. And so they were buying, the idea was that they wanted to buy for their kids comics about characters that they'd read, so that Superman and the Flash, and so it became a multi-generational thing. But obviously fashions have changed in the meantime, and there wasn't a nostalgia wave or a collectability around those things then. People would buy them and chuck them away.
That's what I heard that they basically ran out of ideas. They ran out of ideas. So someone clever said, oh, why don't we do a different version of so-and-so? And then that's how the multi-universe was born. Like, for instance, they ran out of ideas what to do with Superman. And they were like, well, what do we do with Superman? And then the idea was, okay, right, well, if we had a different version of Superman, and then that's when the multi-universe was created. Oh, God, and that's the thing. And that's what happened in the comics. And obviously now it's happening with films, because they've run out of ideas what to do with Spider-Man and bring back member berries.
In the comics,
and that's what's happening.
They made it an annual thing, really, with DC Comics. It's something they would touch now and again. It wasn't a day-to-day thing. It wasn't a week-to-week thing. But something happened around 20 years ago, and an imprint came along called Elseworlds, which are finite stories where they would tell us what if Batman lived in Victorian London, that kind of thing. So they're what if stories, but they would attract the creative influence and interest of people, sometimes novelists, for example.
Anoraks, though,
we all anoraks, mate.
No, let me explain. People who wanted to tell stories, people who maybe felt that they had always read about these characters, and maybe they'd got one Batman story to tell. People like Stephen King, for example. And so, I want to tell a story about that character, about that world, and about that ethos. We've had people in the chat mention the ethos of Doctor Who, that it has its own ethos too, and so it was sort of latched onto, and they could expand it with these Elseworld books. Sort of what would have happened if Superman had been raised in the Soviet Union. Obviously, when in the middle of the Cold War, it was an interesting topic. It's a typical sci-fi idea, which I suppose you could say harkens right back to Star Trek And I don't think anybody really. The idea of Star Trek, I think with their parallel universe, the mirror universe, that's undoubtedly the biggest example, the most influential example of a multiverse that I can think of, where you'd travel over to an alternative reality where there'd be basically evil versions.
Hang on a minute, though. Is that a multiverse or is it a parallel universe? I thought there was a difference between.
Well,
this is why the public won't get it.
Well, that's my question, though. Parallel universes have been a literary method of sci-fi to tell stories for a long, long time.
And we've had them in Doctor Who a couple of times.
Exactly. So with the existence, bear in mind that Doctor Who has used parallel universes several times. The idea that Chris Chibnall has brought about, has innovated and brought us a Doctor Who multiverse. I would argue that Doctor Who has had a multiverse since 1970. You know which story I'm about to talk about, don't you?
Yeah, but he's not innovated it. That's the difference. And this is the problem with multiverse. You have to have such a delicate touch. You have to be very clever when you do it. Because the way Chibnall is, it looks like he's going to do it. It's just an excuse to get more doctors that you couldn't get as a full series Doctor into your story.
But the beauty of it is, though, Chris Chibnall's only really... People have said that Chris Chibnall is jangling his keys. And because he's only got another 3 episodes to put out, he's put these ideas out there, or at least he's rebadging them and claiming them as his own. But he hasn't got time to do anything with them. Whereas people in the past, I would argue that Inferno, being a parallel universe story, is therefore a multiverse story. Well, what do you think about this, Simon?
Absolutely. Well, of course it is. You're spot on. Of course it's a multiverse, parallel universe story, whatever you want to call it. And this, and I'm really glad you've picked Inferno as example, because this comes down to exactly what I was saying 5 minutes ago, is it's all about the story. And Inferno just happens to be the most fantastically brilliant story. It almost doesn't matter that it's in a parallel universe. It does. Of course, it's key to the story. But you know what I'm saying? That at the end of the day, the story of Inferno is just riveting. And if anybody out there has not watched Inferno yet, you are in for a treat when you get around to watching Inferno. And so the fact that it's a parallel universe, multiverse, whatever, is incidental. And again, it's like Charlotte says, it's whether you've got the lightness of touch to get away with it, to do it well. And of course, Inferno does that in spades, because it's done in a very clever, subtle way that is key to the story, whereas what Chibnall appears to be doing at the moment is just basically using possibly multiverses, parallel verses, whatever, to just try and shoehorn in, as Charlotte says, other doctors or whatever, or try to look, and look, let's be honest with Chibnall. I think an enormous amount of Chibnall is him just trying to look clever. Whereas Inferno, nobody was trying to look clever. They were trying to do a damn good story. And that's the key difference.
Well, Russell T did it, didn't he? Russell T did it in an episode of with David Tennant, didn't he? So
well, he did it a couple of times. Russell did it a couple of times. He did it with Turn Left as well.
And if you think of both examples, whether it's Turn Left or The Age of Steel, you can see he had a character development story.
And he had a reason as well.
With Age of Steel, he wanted to explore Rose's links with her dad, because from in the normal universe he was dead. So this was the way for Rose to actually meet her dad in a fashion, to interact.
Yeah, he just wanted that emotional nonsense, didn't he?
But that's what goes back to what I said, though, doesn't it, Charlotte? That's literate sci-fi to tell affecting personal stories. What if I could actually be with my dad again? What if on another world he's out there living a life and I could be part of it?
Yeah, that's why
I did enjoy those stories, though.
That's why I think parallel universes work a lot better, because it's a lot more contained. Because it is just a mirror in a sense of. And
look at the way Ian's talking about them as well, Charlotte. You know,
I like them.
It's had an effect on him. You can tell by listen to the sound of his voice. He's gone all soft.
I like all of them. I like him, and obviously Pertwee is my favourite. One of my favourite Doctors. I love Pertwee, and I loved Inferno. I loved it. No matter it was long, but I still loved it because of John. Right. I liked what Russell T did with the multi-universe kind of thing. And you're right, it is personal. It was a personal story for Rose and stuff like that. Those writers, they did it right. But I think I think personally, though, I think they shouldn't be doing the multi-universe thing because everybody's doing it. It doesn't make it, and he doesn't make it special. Do you know what I mean? Personally, I think they shouldn't do it. Personally,
I'm confused. Where has this come from? Has Chibnall said in a recent episode that Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is in a different universe?
Yeah.
No,
Right.
I haven't seen it either, JT.
I won't go into too much detail. I'll say because so few of us have. There's only myself and Charlotte that have seen it. So it's less than half the panel.
I've seen it.
So without going in, you have as well. So without going into too much detail, yeah, I mean, it's been confirmed that there are parallel universes and there's a multiverse. There's more than one. There's one after another, after another, after another, and that's what made me think of Battlefield in particular, where the Doctor talks about backwards and forwards and sidewards in time. So if you remember in that story, that it's speculated that Merlin could be the Doctor. You know, numerous characters in that assume that the Seventh Doctor is Merlin, Charlotte.
Yeah.
And but he isn't so certain. He seems, with hindsight, it's not even a case of now where he's sort of speaking about it as, it's one of his former selves or a future self. He seems wildly open to the idea that this could be another him, literally entirely from another universe altogether. So it's way out there, that story is, but of course, it being classic Doctor Who, it's very much in the margins. It's not something that's brought into the centre of the story.
It's subtle.
It's subtle, but that's because of the character, and I'm talking about the Doctor here, his experience as not just as a Time Lord, but as a time and space adventurer. He has been in a parallel universe by that point in his life, you know, and I never thought anything about that, because why wouldn't a future incarnation of the Doctor have ginger hair and be Merlin in one of his adventures? You know, why wouldn't that happen?
and the other thing that's interesting, the difference, and Charlotte's just said it with, you know, the lightness of touch, whether a writer has it or not. And the difference is, in something like Battlefield, it's again, same as with Inferno, actually the same as really to an extent with Age of Steel. It's almost incidental in that it's handled very subtly, very deftly. Whereas for the three at the top of the column that have actually watched last Sunday's episode, the delivery of the information that we're sitting between these multiverses is delivered with like a sledgehammer over the head, that we're supposed to be impressed. You know, the music tells us we've got to be, wow, but it's a multiverse. Oh my God, it's incredible. And we're supposed to react in a certain way. And it's very manipulative storytelling. And the problem is with that, if you're going to go down that route, you've got to have some really fantastic ideas that genuinely make people go, wow, that's cool, rather than just trying to beat your audience into submission, that you're being clever. And of course, as we've already said, people on the panel have already said, multiverses have been done before. This is nothing new, Chibnall. If you're watching this is nothing new.
Well, he knows that.
Drop it into your story. Pop it in the story. But please don't tell us to be impressed. We'll decide whether we're impressed or not. We don't need to be told.
But I think it's the case, Simon, that with these parallel universes and multiverse stories, the smaller they get, like JT, you immediately mentioned Turn Left. In many respects, you couldn't get, even though the scale of it and the stakes are large, minute by minute, that's really quite a small story that's affecting one particular character right up against her in her immediate life, in her family life, isn't it? On a street corner level. So if it can be used to tell those kinds of stories, then great. But as a long-term strategy, see, my feeling is that in the heat of the moment, this is all, it's very exciting. The possibilities for Doctor Who, Universe 1 and spin-off shows, and that's fine. But I'm not excited about a multiverse with Doctor Who either.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is here now. And just as an aside there, where does e-space fit into all this?
I
think the difference is here now for anything that's going on. Whatever Chibnall's going to be doing now, or whatever he's doing now, apart from killing Doctor Who, I don't think it's going to be relevant. I think we've got the template. If they're going into this Whoniverse thing, which we assume that they are, I think the template is already there, because Russell created it in 2006. We had Doctor Who, we had Torchwood, and we had the Sarah Jane adventures. I think they'll build on that template. They won't be able to do Sarah Jane, they won't be able to do Torchwood, but they'll be able to do new stuff. And that's what I was saying the other week and in previous shows. That's why this new version, the all-new Doctor Who, has to be all new, and it has to work, because it has to bring us brand new characters and setups that we like. So, for example, we've talked before about a Dalek spin-off. That could happen. A Unit spin-off is still in the works if Unit, because you can do a nice little drama. I mean, brand new characters, a new version of Sarah Jane or whatever, new characters. I think that would be more. I don't think it'd be parallel. I think it'll all be in the Doctor's universe. Yeah, I don't think it'll be all this. I think it'd be the same time.
Well
yes,
Digby
line. Yeah,
asks specifically about the Doctor and says, "Isn't the Doctor a traveller in space and time already, and therefore an example of a multiverse character already?" I think it is different.
No, it's because it's the same. It's the same universe of the Doctor traveling through different timelines. But personally, I think that look, I would be more happier if they just retconned the retcon and eradicated the Jodie era, and then just went from there instead of all this multi-universe thing. That's what I would do if I was in charge, Doctor. I would retcon the retcon, destroy it completely, so it's completely out of the Doctor Who universe, and carry on from there. The idea of having so many different universes and so many different characters, it's the same thing Marvel is doing, it's the same thing DC is doing. I don't think it's
Why is he doing it?
It could be nice if Doctor Who was setting a trend rather than following one.
Yeah,
I think when it used to, in the past, I think
it used to do that though, didn't it?
It always. And let's not forget too that there is a Doctor living in a parallel universe.
There is
already, albeit
that's not a
human Doctor, a different character. Technically, he's there living a life with Rose Tyler in a parallel world, so that could potentially be picked up. It's the same. But it's not the same, different principle, same principle, different physical.
I think they'd rather go for new ones. I would, wouldn't you? I mean, I would like to see some brand new, fresh characters. I don't want to see something from 15 years ago. I'm actually at this point in my life very reticent to see somebody from 30 or 40 years ago, to be quite honest. I would like to see something fresh and exciting and vibrant and new, and stuff that's going to bring not just new life to us as fans, but to the public. And I'm always going to go on banging on about the public because they are important.
You're right. You're right.
No, that's old. Bugger off.
And Robert,
have a cornetto.
Robert says multiverse, multivitamins. Keep taking the tablets there, Richard. Cliff Maxwell says, no, I disagree, except from the respect of telling just one great one-off alternative universe
I agree
story.
Well.
I think it depends. It depends on the story. It depends on which characters you're looking to play with.
I think, isn't that, from what you guys are saying, isn't that what Chibnall's doing now with the creation of all these versions of the Doctor we've never seen before, both male, female, and tortoise?
Yeah, destroy it. That's what I say. Destroy it completely.
And
Raymond Williams says that why do so many sci-fi shows copy each other? Just as you've just been saying there,
I'm wagging.
Multiverse is just a trend. Chibnall copies everyone's work he does. He's been copying Stephen and Russell certainly all the way through this series.
And
Andrew Cartmel.
And Robert Payne in the chat says, and he's absolutely right, the general public probably doesn't care about multiverse stuff. You're right, Robert. Of course the general public doesn't care about it. They care about stories.
But I think that could change. I think Into the Spider-Verse for the animated movie was such a big hit. And with the Doctor Strange movie that's coming in March, I think it is. Oh, no, it was put back till May, wasn't it? That's actually called the Multiverse of Madness. If this Spider-Man movie does as big as people think it will, then so will the Doctor Strange movie. And these are bringing multiverses to the box office and to the mainstream. And it could, that's actually happening, JT. People are excited for that Spider-Man
but you're
movie.
Talking as a geek. Try telling this to my mother, who likes to sit down at the weekend and watch JT, a bit of fantasy.
I'm speculating that this potentially could sell what is a geeky idea. This could take it mainstream, whereby people start to pick up on what it is and start to understand it the same way that they did 30 years ago with say, oh, that's the evil twin. Everybody knows what an evil twin is now. Audiences are more sophisticated now. I mean, I'm not saying that will happen or won't happen, but I think we should put it out there.
I can't see them going to it. I mean, I can't see people going to Spider-Man or the Doctor, whatever it is, thing there, because who cares? Who gives a toss? There's no link here in the United Kingdom to these characters.
Yes, but thousands and millions give a toss because they go to see these films.
We do not have in the United Kingdom the link to these American characters that the Americans do or the comic book fans do. My family wouldn't go and see Spider-Man. I personally wouldn't go and see Spider-Man. There's nothing to do with Tom. Yes, but you're a geek.
Yeah, but
I'm talking about.
They have more when they get it right. These films have a crossover appeal. I think. Sean, what do you think?
I think people will care if there's characters that they will follow because of a multiverse. I think that's the thing with Spider-Man. People will remember the Sam Raimi films. People will remember.
That's what they're counting on.
Dr. Octopus, because it was a good part and it was a good actor. And I watched, even me, who's not a comic person, I'm not into superheroes. I'm not even into a lot of hard sci-fi. Doctor Who's sort of the main thing I do like. Yeah. But I remember Dr. Octopus. So there's enough. I think it's not the multiverse idea that weirdly people will be sold on in these movies. They will be sold on, I can remember that character from 10 years ago.
That's what they're counting on.
Character. So I think if Russell going
it's
forward
superficial,
is going to build
superficial,
but if Russell can create a whole load of characters, maybe in connection to a multiverse that people will connect to, they might not. You're right, JT. The general public will not care about the ins and outs of a multiverse, but they will care if it's a good story, like Simon said, on the surface level, and if there's characters that they actually
and it's certainly not something that you can base. It's not something that you can, for example, base a 3 or 4 year series on it and sort of pin it on a multiverse thing. I think it's something that's going to burn out really, really quickly. It's different. I think it's different with the DC shows because they're sort of doing it the way that comics do it. They go back to it now and again. You know, that brand of shows pump out probably about 200 episodes of various shows per year. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but they don't. I'm exaggerating.
They don't have to do the multi-universe thing in Doctor Who. What they have to do, as JT says, which I agree, is create new characters within the universe, existing universe, create new characters. They can cross over sometimes in shows and maybe just a little bit of member berries, just a tiny this time round, not like what they've done in the last 4 seasons, whatever. But I agree with JT and Simon. They should create new characters moving forward.
I'm sure they will.
That we can embrace the new.
The other thing about it now.
Chat for a moment. Just looking over to the chat for a moment. We've got something here from Christian from the Legend of the Travelling TARDIS. Says you can expand the universe of the Doctor without dropping the equivalent of an H-bomb on the canon of the Doctor. I think a multiverse is the next step for the Doctor Who to grow. But why mess up with canon? I think
I'm not quite convinced that I know what the term multiverse means. I think it just, I don't get it. I just don't get it, and that's what's gonna. No. I just don't think. I mean, again, it's very good putting up the definition there. What the hell are we talking about? It's a television show, and all we need to do, as Simon keeps saying, is have good stories with good characters. Now, the other great thing about this is now a real business. If Bad Wolf and BBC Studios can come up with brand new characters who are popular and well thought out and can spin off a character, they will make money because they will own that character. Ta-da! That's going to be their main aim. And as a business, they have to make money.
And this is a gimmick, JT. You know, I'm not bigging this up as a great revolutionary thing. You know, I don't necessarily think myself that it is a great fit for Doctor Who. Certainly not as a long-term strategy, as a novelty. And I can see why they would.
The multi-universe is completely different to crossovers. What they should do is crossovers rather than a multi-universe. Multi-universe is completely different universes, 6 different universes, and they go into another universe. That's the multi-universe. But what I want the crossovers. So make loads of different characters within the same universe, and sometimes they meet. That's all that's needed.
That's it. That's it. And as I say, we've had that template before, and I think that's what they'll take and run and grow, hopefully. And I think that's what's going to be the Whoniverse.
And it could be potentially good ground for. I'm not saying this is what Russell's going to do in the 60th. I think he'll have to go a lot simpler because just as you've said, there is so much confusion at the moment about the appeal of Doctor Who. The general British public have fallen out of love with the show. They don't know.
Big time.
Russell T Davies himself, despite what people on Twitter are claiming, the only thing that Russell T Davies has ever really said is that he doesn't know what Doctor Who is about anymore. So
None of us do.
Russell himself is aware that Doctor Who has lost its shape, has lost that ethos that people were mentioning earlier on. I don't think multiverse is any way of getting it back. I don't think that's what Russell's going to do. But there is, the other quote that we have from him is the fact that, you know, with employing these kind of gimmicks is that all stories happened now, and I can understand the appeal of that.
Sorry?
I can understand the appeal of that all stories happen now, sort of alternative stories. So it won't discount, for example, any of the novels that may have overwritten one another, or more importantly, in consequence of Doctor Who, the fact that there's been multiple explanations of something like Atlantis. The things that people who have a go at us for being against change, they always bring up, but there's multiple Atlantises, there's multiple this, there's multiple that. The idea that the universe could be organic, or maybe some of it is a ripple from another universe.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a nice enough idea. I think it's a harmless idea. I think it can be a fun idea, and that the Doctor is potentially a fun character to do fun things with.
Simon has said this.
People speculate about these things. What if? What if Chris Eccleston hadn't left after one season? What if he was still the Doctor now? What if he'd have done 14 series as the Doctor? What if the Curse of Fatal Death? There are people out there who love things like the Curse of Fatal Death. It's always left me a bit cold. But there are a lot of people out there who want that to be official continuity.
Oh, please.
Bring that in. But there are people out there too who are still hankering for Chris Marshall's take
JT's
on
head.
the 13th.
I know, because
I'm
this
not
is what
saying this is a serious strategy, JT. I'm trying to have a laugh with this subject here.
Well, and it is funny, but it does get to me because it's just nonsense. This is what pisses me off about fans. I notice why nothing has to tie up together.
This is
and Simon, I know, and I can't stand it. But Simon has said many, many times before, and this is exactly why he's right. Fans shouldn't be in charge of these bloody shows because they try to tie everything up. Oh, there was a book in 1993 that I've got to justify in my TV show. Never mind that nobody read the bloody book. I must justify it. Now that's Chibnall's style of stuff, isn't it? Please grow up, people. Grow up.
The way I feel about it is that Doctor Who needs to reconnect with telling smaller stories about characters that we have a connection to and a world that we can relate to, or worlds that we can relate to, because it doesn't have to be on Earth. That is the bread and butter of Doctor Who. A good rollicking adventure, either on the weekly or in 2, 3 or 4 parts, however long, that should be focused.
Absolutely, yeah.
And multiverses, I think you can have a lot of fun with the idea, particularly around something like an anniversary. You can bring back such as Colin Baker, and it won't matter that he's pushing 80 and carrying a bit of timber. He took on something approaching that coat, and he is the 6th Doctor again. And you can just say he's from another universe or whatever. It doesn't help the engine of Doctor Who. It doesn't help us get back to the core of what Doctor Who is. And for that reason, I think it's I think it is large. I think it's a confection. It depends on the kind of stories that you want to tell with it. But something like Turn Left, even the Age of Steel, Rise of the Cybermen, I think those stories are generally quality stories that told us something affecting and worthwhile in the broader pantheon of Doctor Who stories, Simon.
Well, again, we keep on saying this. It's down to story. Every time it's story. For example, a really interesting one. I suppose we've already seen another parallel universe with Tom Baker when he came back in the 50th anniversary. What was he, the curator?
It's a future Doctor, though, isn't it?
Yeah, was that the 4th Doctor? Was it not? Was it a Doctor from a parallel universe? It's exactly what you're talking about, Dan. Basically, that's exactly what you're talking about in many ways. Now, we all accepted that and we embraced it. We had absolutely no problem with the fact that Tom Baker was there. And maybe he was
for the fans, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe he wasn't the 4th Doctor. We didn't know. We didn't care because it was great to see Tom Baker back. And I mean, I personally don't rate that particular 50th anniversary story at all. But in essence, it's a decent enough story. And so, as I say, that's what it comes down to. Is the story any good? And if the story's good, we will forgive the fact that maybe Tom Baker is there and it's not quite clear. Is he the Doctor? We don't know. Doesn't matter. It's just great to see Tom Baker back. So it just comes down to story and character. Are they any good? Yep, they get a thumbs up in that case.
And the way I see it, whilst it can't be a long-term strategy, it could be a short-term gimmick to get us to a place to give us something like that. Yeah. For a tentpole event, or maybe just to say something. I mean, look how beautiful Time Crash was. That was 10 minutes of our lives. I wouldn't want to see that done over and over again. But in time, if that's a doctor from a parallel universe, from the multiverse.
Well, no, he wasn't. He was from out.
What are you talking about?
The parallel multi-universes, different universes. That he wasn't. He was.
No,
from
I know
our
he wasn't,
universe.
but potentially he could have been. You could get away with a lot, and you can sort of bring some of these characters together.
Actual he actually says it. He was from
no,
different
I know,
time.
but
what you call it? He expanded because of something. I can't remember.
You see, now you're confusing me as a science fiction person. Now. I mean, the fifth Doctor becomes the 10th, and unfortunately, the 10th becomes the 13th, whether we like it or not. The 13th is about to become the 14th. That's not a parallel universe. We've been told that's the same character, and we've been forced to be told she is the same as the 12 blokes that preceded her. Just as much as we've been told John Hurt is a missing incarnation, which still grates on me.
Can I just clear this one up? Because I'm sort of being told in the thread here that, and maybe I missed this, that the curator is definitely in the same universe and he's a future Doctor. Were we told that he was a future Doctor? I thought
not in the story, but Moffat did say it's a future incarnation.
Yeah, Simon, he didn't come out and say it. He basically said, "Oh, you might revisit a few old favorites."
Old faces, yeah.
Oh, sorry,
So
old faces.
So in that case,
it's just a way of getting him in.
It's not clear at all.
No,
it doesn't matter anyway. The point still remains. I think we will accept most stuff happening within the show as long as it's a good story. That's the point I'm trying to make. We don't care as long as it's good. That's it.
Let's look at how this is being received out there in the chat with our audience here. Doctor Who is its own universe. Russell T. Davies, please. Don't go down that route, says Peter Harrington. When I think all this through, that is the truth that I always end up focusing on too. Eastlyn Burkholder says, I hate multiverses. It's lazy. Problem being, says, other universes in Doctor Who canon is supposed to be impossible and only happens rarely.
That's very true as well.
As one-off events. And there are also things as well in the past. In Inferno, they established that the Doctor, that even though there are parallel Earths and parallel universes, that the Time Lords are outside of all of that. So there aren't actually any parallel Doctors. So sorry, you lot. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But you could. Okay, that things change, don't they? Robert Payne says, imagine going into your office in a multiverse. You just wouldn't belong because you either don't work there or another you does. Yeah, Ramona is already in East space. But
she is.
If the idea of these Doctors, if the idea of sort of older Ninth Doctors or a Chris Marshall 30th, if that doesn't appeal, just think of the idea that we could have Doctors that we've never seen before. People who should have always...
That's a great picture of Noel. I like that one.
Possibilities are wide open, aren't they?
Noel's had his brush with many, many Doctors over the years, so it's feasible under the context of this conversation.
Listen, I'd rather see than Jodie Whittaker. I'm being brutally honest.
That's true. Yeah. He looks a bit like Barry Gibb there, doesn't he? A bit.
Yeah, he does actually.
The lost BG. Russell T. Davies said that he would never come back to Doctor Who unless it was dying. Says problem being, I have never heard him or seen him say that.
I've not seen that.
That I mean, if you have got a link for that, I'd be very interested to see it because there are a lot of incongruences with the things that Russell has said about Doctor Who, which are understandable when you say something in private and when you say something in public. Obviously, there's certain etiquette, there's professional etiquette we've talked about a few times already on this show. Aidan McGear says, I am so confused.
Aidan?
You mean both, Aidan.
What's confused? What's confusing?
Well, just our conversations confused him. Just like I was a bit confused there with what was going on between 5 and the 5th and the 10th.
Are we actually?
We are sides. We're science fiction and Doctor Who fans. So,
I agree with you. I agree with you, JT, about the War Doctor as well. I thought that was really unnecessary to have the War Doctor because he took it in a different direction and it opened a lot of these doors so that they can muck around with the whole system of Doctor.
In hindsight, that's exactly what's happened because that's the excuse Chibnall used to bring in all these other elements, isn't it? Really, and for me, it was just. Regrettable.
I did like John Hurt as the War Doctor.
Of course,
and I did like the 50th, but it should never have happened.
No, and that's a topic for another show, isn't it? But we're both agreed that it should have gone to McGann and dragged him back.
Exactly.
No, I have to agree with that. We've got Adam says here there's a stark difference between fans and stans. I've always been a bit confused as to what a stan is too.
My grandfather was called Stan.
Oh, Jason, it's really not the same. Really
According to Aidan, stands accept anything they get. They're consumers. God, this is good. They're consumers. Fans care about what they get, which means being able to be critical and being open to not liking stuff and admitting publicly that you don't like stuff. God, I'd wondered about that because I see that term "stan" used a lot, particularly on Twitter. There are entire.
Is this another American piece of rubbish that we've got to take into our language?
Does anybody know why it's a stan?
Because they're American. What is going on with our language?
Can explain. I mean, for example, even after a week, I still stand the Bailey Doctor. I'm totally down for that. All day. The dedicated Twitter account for Bailey is already up, Simon.
Better again than Jodie.
What is a stan? What is this American term?
Steve Voigt says in chat says it's a stalker fan. Why are they stalker fans?
Stalker fan?
It's like do you know the obsessive fan stereotype of like a fan that goes beyond what's normal and like they
the Jodie lot.
Well, but it's like if like for an actor's, for example, if they stand an actor, they'll go to the filming locations. They'll try and find out where they live. They'll do like overboard.
What do they eat?
Yeah,
stuff
that
like
sort of thing.
Fans have been doing that for years, though.
Yeah, no, but it's like another level. It's really hard with
It's sort of completely just as Aidan described in the chat. It's sort of complete and total obsession and acceptance. Yes. So you won't, if you meet your idol, you won't say, "Oh, I love you, absolutely brilliant." But your accent wasn't very good in that. The way that Simon did to Colin Baker.
Did I?
So are we talking Sophie Alice Baxter stuff here?
Oh God!
Sophie Alice has just had a stalker in court because he just wouldn't leave her alone all the time, and the court have come down and said, "Right, this is what you now have to follow because he is a danger to her."
Well,
I'd say that.
Apparently, also in the thread, it's been said here that apparently it's from Eminem. That's where Stan comes from. Eminem in an Eminem song. I love M&Ms. Don't you love M&Ms? Those little chocolate.
Yes, Stan.
No, I don't like them. No, don't like them. No.
Oh God! Right, thank you everybody for your comments on that. Who knows where we're going to go? Whether we are going to go? Well, we're definitely going to go forwards in time. Maybe we'll go sidewards too. I don't know. And if we do, we'd better get the old ibuprofen in now and get dosed up on whatever we need to expand our minds. JT,
I'd certainly be very worried. I'm very worried about the public. I can't see them switching it on at all if they have to go for me. I mean, I can't even watch the DC shows because they're dull.
Listen, it's time we took the designated Type 40 ad break. I think this is time for you guys to go for a wee. Just
Cornetto.
I ain't got any cornettos, mate.
Don't go and drop the kids off at the pool because you won't have time for that. I don't think it's only going to be a couple of minutes. So we're going to check in with some adverts here. So either go and grab yourself a drink, or go and put out whatever you need to, or stick around and check out the ads.
Put out the cats.
Stick around and check out the ads. This time, these are absolute belters. Put out the cats. Yes, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes with more Doctor Who talk. But before, in the meantime, just as the Cryon said to the Cyberman, take a look at these.
Who is this man? What's happening? Cosmic regeneration. He's in the fifth dimension they call BBC audio and video. There'll always be another time and another planet.
Tons of toast. 2 before the first day at big school, 52 past midnight, 98 over a yawn, 32 forgotten, 12 over tears, 44 over cheers, 9 to say today's a new day. All in one kitchen. Ours. Anchor tastes like home.
Oh, there's some right funny goings on in the bedrooms of the aristocracy. What a lot they are. Tumbling the maids, jumping in and out of beds, marrying, divorcing. Read it in the Sun this week. Here, Earl of Kimberley, 5 wives. And the things these lords and ladies are told the Sun. All true. They used to say sex was too good for the working classes. Now Lord Lilford, 5 wives again, says in the Sun they're catching up. There's Viscount John Clockworthy Talbot Foster White Melville Skeffington once filmed Kim Novak in a near nude. There's the love story of this heiress and her Italian count, the Duchess. Sex for me is a dessert, she says. And this lady, the aristocracy, wants something new for kicks. But what? Oh, you must read How the Other Half Loves in the Sun from tomorrow.
Hey, you should be a bus driver! In a Keanu Reeves film. I mean, how fast were you going back there? Hello? Hello? I said, how fast were you going? Back there. Bit of speed impresses the girls, see? Because he's a bit of a lady killer, is our Damon. What a tragic waste of a decent motor.
Welcome back to Type 40 Live, everybody. And we're one man down for the time being. I'm sure he'll be back.
Oh, dear.
He'll be back in a second.
He's slipped into a multiverse.
Yes, we'll have a sign.
Christopher Eccleston scared him off with that advert, one of the two.
I remember that advert from the pictures.
It was a cinematic one, was it?
Yeah, I remember seeing it, oh God, so many times as a young man. The pictures going.
We have got Simon Horton back, and it is, I think he's from our universe still.
No, I'm from a parallel universe. I'm definitely sliding in from a side.
I can tell because your hair's on the other side now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, parallel Simon. I think after that enormous conversation, that universe straddling conversation, and then Chris Eccleston there hitting us with something uncharacteristically heavy in the advert break, we need to bathe in the waters of nostalgia and the Doctor Who diary, don't we? So over to you, Simon. Hey! Isn't that gorgeous, everybody?
Right, okay then.
Yes,
so,
what's first?
We're dipping our toes back in. Just very quickly to begin with, that, believe it or not, there were 17 new episodes screened this week in years gone by, spanning the full 58 years. 17 episodes, including an Unearthly Child, episode 3, so right back to the first story, Dalek Invasion of Earth, Power of the Daleks, the invasion, the android invasion, the androids of Tara. Your favourite, Dan, Nightmare of Eden Part 2. Was screened
bring on those mandrels.
In years ago. State of Decay, Dragonfire, Silver Nemesis, Survival, Hellbent. It goes on and on and on. But the one we're looking at is because it's 35 years since we were enjoying The Ultimate Foe Part 1, otherwise known as The Trial of a Time Lord, Part 13, from 1986. 35 years since The Ultimate Foe. Of course, bless him, this was Robert Holmes, as you can see there from the Radio Times clipping. Yeah, it was written by Robert Holmes. Robert Holmes' very, very final work, full stop, let alone his last work in Doctor Who. It was his last work ever because, bless him, he died not long after, well, halfway through his writing of Part 13 that we're celebrating. He sadly went into hospital and died not long afterwards. And, of course, Eric Saywood was the one that sort of stepped in and helped finish off the episode, and that was what ultimately was the catalyst that caused the massive fallout between Eric Saywood and John Nathan Turner. So this episode that we're celebrating, it's a kind of a key episode in many ways.
Yeah, as a single episode in itself, there are so many sort of legends surrounding it, and most of it really happened off screen. I mean, a little while ago, we talked about The Deadly Assassin on the podcast a little, didn't we? Because of a recent Chris Chibnall episode, Once Upon Time, tried to capture that and obviously spectacularly failed. But with this episode of Trial of a Time Lord, they also tried, Robert Holmes obviously wrote The Deadly Assassin, and he tried to touch his own work, I feel, a little with this part of Trial of a Time Lord.
Yeah, yes, as you say, he created the Matrix to begin with, and so he went back into the Matrix. And of course, bless him, it doesn't work anywhere near as well as it does in the Deadly Assassin. Obviously, I mean, interestingly, the original title for this story, as Robert Holmes called it, was Time Inc., which I always thought was a fantastic title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved that title. And to be honest, if Robert Holmes' script had actually got to the screen as it was originally imagined, it would have been even weirder than we actually ultimately get, because he had Sweeney Todd in there, he had Jack the Ripper was in there, and it would have been revealed that the Valeyard was actually the final incarnation of the Doctor, rather than, as it is ultimately described, somewhere vaguely between the 12th and final incarnation.
Have you ever read a synopsis of this story or the script? Does it exist? Because I've never come across it.
Yeah, the script is out there. I have a feeling, I could be wrong, I have a feeling it's on the Blu-ray in the PDF section.
Oh, okay.
And if not, there is an excellent book by Black Archive book by Obverse Books on the Ultimate Foe. This is a plug for you, Black Archive Obverse. Send me free books, and I'll give you a nice plug. But it is, honestly, if you are remotely interested in the Ultimate Foe and Trial of a Time Lord, I cannot recommend this book more, because it's just a brilliant synopsis of the back behind the scenes clashes, the problems, the fallout with Saywood and JNT, and yes, Dan, the original ideas for the script, which, as I say, is even weirder than we finally get. And the other final interesting thing that I think is interesting about Trial of a Time Lord, Ultimate Foe in particular, is it's the last time we will see Time Lords for 23 years. They vanish for 23 years. We don't see them again until the end of time.
Thank God.
Was that a thank God from you, JT?
Absolutely.
Sparingly, don't you, JT?
Well, you do, and I think they lost their mystique, and I think they were bastardized an awful lot. I always think the Time Lord should have been shrouded in mystery and not seen, and the Doctor on the run from them. So I think they were used far too much, and I was also very upset when they came back in the End of Time. I thought when Russell sort of said in episode 2 of the reboot,
mixed blessings with it.
It's gone. I thought, oh, thank God for that. Thank God all that baggage is gone.
But it's interesting.
24 says here, Simon, in all seriousness, even though it's not a complete script from Holmes, it does show how inventive he could still be with the show's very few resources. And I think Chris Clough does quite a nice job in bringing that one to life. It's not without merit. Is it Dominic Glenn's music too? There's something at work in this episode that's right. I don't know why ultimately it doesn't work, and you can't quite put your finger on it.
No, you can't quite put your finger on it. I honestly think part of it actually with this particular episode is down to the fact it's shot on video rather than on film, and it just for some reason this one just looks quite in the way that you can imagine that the Deadly Assassin had been done on video. It probably might not work as well as it does. It is the film that works so well with it, and especially because of the Victorian setting in the Ultimate Foe, it just lends itself to film rather than to video. But no, I mean the truth of it is Robert Holmes' worst work is better than a lot of people's best work, mentioning no names at all. And Robert Holmes, bless him, was not. Robert Holmes was not well at this point. He died very, very soon afterwards. He was not a well man, and yet he still managed to turn in what is nothing short of at least an interesting script. It's very, very watchable, and I love it. I have to be honest, I love it. I think it's a great last but one episode, and it falls through a hole for me with the final episode that Pip and Jane wrote, Pip and Jane Baker. But Robert Holmes, episode 13, I love.
We're talking about going from one extreme to the other. Let's briefly mention this.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
Oh, I've seen that. I know what this is. Oh, my God, I know what that is. That's the one I saw, Kermit on a stool.
Do you know, it's interesting because I've never, ever seen this episode. Never watched it.
Keep it that way, mate. Keep it that way.
Well, I woke up and that was in it.
I've never even seen that photo. I didn't even know what. So that genuinely was what was it? That's
actually
a clip
they actually put that on screen in the 21st century, didn't they, JT?
And it talked.
I was going to say it's worse. It had a woman's voice, so it was like.
Was it a woman's voice? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was.
And after everything bad it did, the Doctor convinced it to be good.
Oh no! Is that? Are you serious?
I'm not.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It was so totally bad. That's the one. A mate of mine forced me to watch this to say, "Listen, you have to see what they've done to the show."
And
I started to watch, and I did fall asleep through part of it. I remember this thing going, "What the hell is this? What are they doing?" It was just totally. It was insanity. It really was ridiculous.
This was the point at which I had stopped watching Doctor Who. So I said earlier on,
awful.
I
think the word
you're
jump in the frog.
but I did.
I think the word that we're trying to avoid is shit. This is absolutely appalling. One of the worst. It was the first time that Doctor Who jumped the shark. Of course, this being a show about time travel and having waited 55 years to jump the shark, it didn't just do it in this episode. It did it again and again and again. Go back, rewind, and do it again. So we've now jumped the shark several times in Doctor Who history. And in this episode, the bad guy, the nasty bastard in this, just turned out to be a single dad. Aren't they horrible?
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. With the logo. Can you just remind me what jump the shark means again, please?
That is when a TV show. How can I put this?
The Fonz.
Yes,
Happy
it goes.
Days.
It's when a
one
TV
step
show
too far.
reaches beyond. It gets it's spent up all of its resources, all the creative energy of everybody who's there on staff, and all of the story possibilities. They can't possibly see any way forward, so they reach for something that's so out of their grasp and so anachronistic with not just the universe of the story they're telling itself, but with what the audience go to that show for. It fractures everything. It fractures its own identity, completely tears apart that connection with the audience. And it was coined by an episode of Happy Days, that sweet, nostalgic little show about a bunch of kids basically hanging around garages and milk bars, to a situation whereby the Fonz was jumping.
He literally jumped the shark.
A stretch of water with a man-eating shark in it on a motorbike. Which obviously
he was on skis. He was on skis.
Sounds awful. Just as bad as the frog on a stool.
Yeah,
it's not as bad as a frog on a stool. Actually, I'd rather see that. Let's move on with some birthday, shall we? So
indeed, yes. So that's 3 years ago, believe it or not, 3 years ago, and I never saw it. So there we go. So birthdays. John Bishop is 55 this week.
He's looking good on 55. To be fair for him.
No, he's looking good. I have to be honest. He does look good. He's John Bishop. John Bishop, of course, he is a comedian and an actor, apparently. So I'm told. He and incredibly, he used to be a pro footballer, believe it or not. I mean, maybe he should have stuck at the day job. I don't know. That's for
he's from Liverpool, of course he was. Everybody from Liverpool's a footballer or are in a band.
Yeah, well, John has made a bit of a mark on Series 13 of Doctor Who. I think some people seem to really love him.
Horrible mark.
He's grown on me a little. You're quite keen, aren't you, Charlotte? Yeah, I think he's better than he was, but...
No, I think what it is, it's basically he's one of the few characters in this whole run that I actually care about. That's the best way to put it. Like, he's got a bit of charm. Yeah. He's got a bit of real world sort ofness to him. But he is suffering right now, but that's all I'll say.
Yeah, like Bradley Walsh was. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, he's basically, it's very much a similar sort of starting good and now.
How can they do that in only however many episodes? I mean, how many more episodes has this series got?
6.
JT, this is Chibnall. It literally takes 2 episodes. That's all it took.
I suppose, because he loses interest. So, how many more weeks has it got to run?
Yeah, it finishes on Sunday. Oh,
does it? Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well, anyway, so back to John Bishop. Believe it or not, his other acting work includes a Ken Loach film and the E14 drama Skins. So that probably says it all, really. That's all you need to know. Can we move on?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Far more interesting. Graham Crowden, bless him. Graham Crowden would have been 99 this week, bless him. Dear old Graham Crowden. Sadly died.
I didn't love him so much in Doctor Who, but I did love him.
Born in, I think you've lost me, haven't you? I've gone, haven't I?
No, we can hear you.
Born 99 years ago.
I've gone.
There's Janet.
Simon, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Janet Ellis, Janet Ellis.
Janet,
Pre-Blue Peter.
So much like her daughter there. Simon thinks that we've lost him, but we haven't. So I don't think he can hear himself. So Graham Crowden, yes, the British character actor, wasn't he? Stage and screen, particularly in his later years, wasn't it, JT? You know, Waiting for God, that sitcom ran for about 6 years, didn't it? It was him and Stephanie Cole.
A huge success there. I never saw it because I was out because it was the 90s, but I was aware of it, and it was a huge show. And for actors of that genre, where nothing was actually of that age, rather, where nothing was actually written for them specifically in those days, this came as a huge gift. And I remember reading something with Graham Crowden about that show. He was so happy and proud of that show and everybody he worked with, and he actually said something along the lines of, I never thought I'd have a show of this quality at this time of my life. Absolutely wonderful. And how brilliant is that? I mean, it's still the same today in show business. You don't see people of a certain age now, you know, really. I mean, you don't, you know, it started in the 80s with the Golden Girls, but they were all quite young, you know, and it's still the same today. But yeah,
apparently, wonderful. I recently heard a story about Graham Crowden, about somebody who did. I was talking to somebody. He'd done a radio show with or something, and yes, we did a lot of voiceover work and commercials and radio. And apparently, the picture that we're looking at now, he's there wearing tweed and looks very smart, doesn't he, for a man of his years? And allegedly, he was very dapper all the time, always dressed for the occasion, even if he wasn't going to be appearing on screen. So he looked very sophisticated and gentlemanly, and like he'd come from the country seat. But it was also very, very foul-mouthed. And so if ever he fluffed his lines, he used to F and blind and all the rest of it. It would all go on. He didn't hold back at all with the swearing, apparently, Simon, Graham Crowden.
Can we hear you, Mr. Simon?
Simon.
We can see
you, mate. Can we hear you?
You see, that generation were very good with their flowery language, though, because it came from the you know, forces days. We used to have national service back when they were all young, so you know, it would have come from there, wouldn't it? Bring that back, I say. Let's bring that back. Anyway,
put your thumbs up if you can hear me, Simon.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Sorry,
we can hear you.
I'm having internet problems. It's because I'm coming from a multiverse. I'm coming from a parallel universe. just if you, I might have already missed that you said this, but what's I think great about Graham Crowden, of course, he was offered the role of the Fourth Doctor before Tom Baker.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, and he turned it down. Offered it by Barry Letts. Barry Letts offered him the part.
Did he ever say why he turned it down, Simon?
Because he simply didn't want to be committed. Barry Letts was asking him to commit to a three series, and he didn't want to be committed to 3 series, so he turned it down. Can you imagine Graham Crowden as the Doctor? I mean,
yes, I can. I can imagine that.
I can.
No, I think I've got my problem is with that. I can't equate anybody being the Doctor except the Fourth Doctor except Tom. And when you look at the other choices that all turned it down, it was all heading towards Tom. It was his. He was born for that role, wasn't he?
He was indeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we salute you, Tom.
So we certainly do. So, but we also salute you, Graham, because you would have been 99. What a legend!
99 red balloons.
Absolutely. So, and moving on, finally for today, Deep Roy. The great Deep Roy was 64 yesterday.
Wow.
Deep Roy.
Yeah.
Can't believe that, actually.
He was born Mahinda Purba in Nairobi 64 years ago yesterday. Of course, he was he was well known as the posse car delegate in Mind Warp, uncredited. No, he wasn't at all. Nobody knew it was Deep Roy as the posse car delegate. Far better known, of course, as Mr. Sin, the pig-brained, peaking homunculus, as he used to do. And he did the voice himself. Bless him, he did those snorts. Deep Roy, respect you for doing the snorts. Bless him, he's only 4 foot 4 inches tall, is Deep Roy, 1.3 meters.
Was he in
a little bit taller than me.
He was in
He was in that chocolate factory.
Yes, he was. Willy Wonka, the chocolate factory.
He does. Yeah, incredibly, he plays. He plays all 165 Oompa Loompas.
I can't get over the fact he's that age.
Yes,
he still looks good.
He looks good.
I mean, he must have been an infant when he did Talons. I mean, I just can't get over
the fact. He wasn't old. Oh, he wasn't old. Absolutely.
No.
his first television. Anybody know what his first TV was? Anybody want to hazard to guess what Deep Roy's first television? 1976. It was 1976.
Oh, that's
it's genre TV. Take a lucky stab at a genre show from 1976.
Coronation Street.
No.
Tomorrow People.
The New Avengers.
Oh, okay. Cool.
His first role was in the New Avengers. He went on to Blake 7. He also was in the X-Files. He was in Pink Panther movies. The Dark Crystal, The Never-Ending Story, of course he was. Believe it or not, he was also in the remake of Planet of the Apes. He was in Flash Gordon. Gordon's alive.
He was.
And he's also, get this, he's the only actor to appear in Doctor Who, Star Trek, and Star Wars. Yeah. So deep respect him. He plays Droopy McCool in Max Rebo's band in Return of the Jedi. That's what he's under, obviously under heavy makeup, as he always was, bless him. And he's a legend. And if you on the season 18 box set, there is a brilliant interview with him. Sorry, not to say season 18, season 14 box set. Yeah. There's a great interview with him because he's clearly living in absolute splendor. I think he? Oh my goodness, he's clearly made some money somewhere along the line.
The Star Trek movies and the Tim Burton movie, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of Tim Burton movies he's done. Tim Burton loves him. He's done so much stuff that you wouldn't even know.
Maybe he got a lot of payment for the 100 different Uncle Lumpers in Willy Wonka.
You'd hope he got paid.
That was a big payday.
5 times, wouldn't you? I mean, he should have had 165 fees. I think he lives in America now. Does he live in America? No, it's India. It's India or Africa.
Oh, he's in India.
And he looks like he lives in a palace. You wait till you see the interview with him on season 14.
He's a lovey.
I'm looking forward to that now. That sounds camp. It sounds like one of those. Has he got a turban as well?
No, he hasn't.
Oh, what a shame.
Try harder, Deep. Try harder.
I know. Come on.
So we love, and I have to be honest. I know, Charlotte. I don't think you've seen Talons of Wen Chiang yet.
No,
you are in for a treat because as a child, I was absolutely terrified by Mr. Sin. He would really put the wind up me. Did a little Mr. Sin with his little knife, stalking along.
So glad he said wind.
Brilliant. Genius. So happy birthday, Deep Roy, who was 64 yesterday.
Good.
We salute you.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday.
A face that I think that people will recognise, even if it is usually painted a funny colour or completely covered in prosthetic or whatever else. It really is. It's a lifetime. How long ago was the Talons? Like 45 years ago, something like that?
Yes, 1976. Same year that he did. So how old was he? Hold on. 64 minus
20.
18. He was 18. He was 18.
18. All right. 18. I'm off by 2 years.
18.
Lots of royalties, a lot of affection in the chat on YouTube for Deep Roy and his various roles. That's always lovely to see. A glittering resume indeed. Very cool, says Richard Brooks.
Yeah. And, I'm surprised he was never in Harry Potter.
He probably was. He probably is.
He probably was. But Warwick Davis.
He must be there somewhere, eh?
Warwick Davis just spends so much time boasting. Everybody thinks it's just him who does those jobs.
Yes, you're quite right, Sean. I'm just intrigued now by Peter Harrington's quote. Name 6 actors who've been in Doctor Who and Blake 7.
Let's do that on another show.
Yeah.
There's about to be a few of them.
We'll be there for
Paul Darrow, Colin Baker.
Maybe that's a question for the Christmas show. We will be back with the Christmas party in 2 weeks' time. We've just got a couple more shows in this run before we take our little break. Big Christmas party here in 2 weeks' time. And don't forget, too, that we did the Doctor Who Day special last week. That was really successful. People seem to love that. Lots of people commenting. And if you want to have your say and help pick the companion of 2021, we had 5 candidates for that over there. There was Louise Jameson. There was Christopher Eccleston. There was Jamie Magnus Stone. There was Neil Cole. And there was somebody else. Judy Gardner, my choice. 5 of them, yeah.
And it was someone else.
If you want to have your say and place your vote, go to our social media accounts, and we're putting out various pictures of them. You can get behind them if you like them and share them and retweet it, or you can join the Type 40 Facebook group and vote in the traditional poll over there along with everybody else. Join the conversation and have some fun over there with all of our friends. Derek Brady is convinced that What's he laughing at?
Yeah, the
Derek
small
Brady
part in Harry
says,
Potter.
I'm laughing at the chat. I mean, somebody who was it just said that he wants a spin-off. It's a sin.
Ooh. On that note, I think it's time to head back to the past, to the future. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Why do I always think of Narnia?
You've got to
Look,
change.
I think
little
of
thought.
Tales from Europe and Paulus the gnome.
What were you thinking?
Thanks for putting that together,
What were you
Simon. I love that. Well, that's Doctor Who Gold. That is the Skyboat song that the second
All right.
Doctor played on his recorder on screen in Doctor Who. And I had to learn the recorder to recreate that just for you, for that sting. So a bit more bloody gratitude.
I love it.
What a lie.
I love it.
Okay, moving on. As Charlotte said earlier on in the show, you'll be... Actually, let's face it, most of us will be very pleased to learn that we only have to endure one more episode of Doctor Who Series 13, Flux, which has been... well, it's been, hasn't it? Our reviews continue for that on the podcast. There'll be another one of those in a few days' time. But we've also now got word of, because the end is in sight, everybody, and we now have word at last on the first of these 3 specials that they're going to drop out between now and next October. So this is something that was confirmed actually on Doctor Who Day last week. The BBC put out the word that this year's Doctor Who festive special will air on New Year's Day 2022. And it is the first stop in what they're calling Jodie Whittaker's 3-part special farewell tour. Yeah, don't let that door hit you on the way out.
Well, that's what they're actually billing this as.
I'm afraid so. Yeah, this is the second
Big
special's coming in the
propaganda.
spring, and then you've got that final one that's coming next autumn, which is labelled as the Centenary BBC special. This is their official blurb for this one on New Year's Day. The 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, the first female Doctor, which they always have to remind us. It's the 13th Doctor and friends will kickstart 2022 with an action-packed... spectacular episode set to air on BBC One on New Year's Day. The festive special itself will feature guest stars Aisling B, Johnny Salmon, and Pauline McLynn.
Those well-known actors.
I know Pauline McLynn from Father Ted, but the others.
What do you call it? The housekeeper.
The housekeeper, yeah. Mrs.
You will. I hope she says that all the way through this show.
We've got a synopsis here, just in case that's not enough to swing it for you, everybody. We have a synopsis. So, Aisling B's character, Sarah. Sarah owns and runs Elf Storage. And Nick is a customer who visits this unit every year, on New Year's Eve. This year, however, their night turns out to be a little different than planned. And they go on to say this is the first of those 3 specials, and it's the countdown to the feature-length special for the centenary of the BBC, where the 13th Doctor will. This is actually going to happen. It's going to happen, everybody. She is going to regenerate. We're going to get to see it at long, long last.
Do you know what's really interesting about this is that I've been seeing that image kicking around on social media and the internet, what have you, for the past week or so. Yeah. And this just goes to show how much I have zoned out Doctor Who, because I had no idea about what you're talking about, Dan, that it was an announcement of the new episode. I didn't even know this had been announced. And I saw that image and I thought, oh, it looks like it's another of those stupid interactive game things.
Yes, it does.
Stimulator things. So I ignored it.
Very lazy.
Says that she's going to get the champagne in when the 13th Doctor finally regenerates.
We all are, Melina.
Garbage says 5 gone, 4 to go. So, absolutely check out our thumbnail.
What's this got to do with Flux? Where's the Flux bit gone?
It's gone. It's finished next week, I presume.
Been and gone by that. Dickbury Strawberry just picked up on the synopsis there and says, Charlotte, that sounds like an episode of the last of the Summer Wine. And he's not wrong, is he? He's not wrong.
Well, no, but my feeling is that image is basically in typical Chibnall fashion. He's dragging the storyline out because in current series, the TARDIS is basically dying. Is the sort of simple way to put it.
We know.
It's sort of dying, oh, it's changing or something's happening to the TARDIS. So that image
trying
to get rid of the TARDIS.
Do you know he read too many New Adventures in the 90s? I mean, I should have slapped him when I last saw him, shouldn't I?
Yes, you should, JT.
I might do it when I next see him. That's just ridiculous.
Well, but it makes a good point about that image. It's like, it's a TARDIS. We've seen how many TARDIS images now of the TARDIS.
It's
like
seriously, Charlotte. It just went straight over my head. I ignored it. I didn't. Did anybody else realise this was going?
No, it's a lazy image. It's a real lazy image, and I thought it was a fan thing, to be honest.
Well, we saw at least the final run, Ian. So we're into the final straight. So the last of these 6 episodes airs this coming Sunday. It's got an episode title that I actually like. It's called The Vanquishers. I think that sounds like an episode of a Hartnell story or something, an episode of The Keys of Marinus. So I quite like that. Usually his episode titles leave me totally cold, but that is about all the enthusiasm that I can muster up for the remainder of Flux. It's very much wore me down. And, you know, I didn't have much in the way of generosity left towards it anyway, but I do have a lot for this. I believe this is worth shouting out to you guys about. If you don't know anything about this show yet, apparently this is debuting on BBC One this coming Saturday. They have bought the American import Superman and Lois. This is a DC Entertainment show. And one of the
Saturday
they broadcast, apparently it starts this coming Saturday on
time?
BBC One. Well, this is it. They're putting it in the Doctor Who time slot, the slot that Doctor Who had under Russell T Davies. And I am not the only person who saw the BBC buy this and immediately announce it for Saturdays and wonder whether this might not be a way of piloting the idea of putting family-based drama back at the centre of their Saturday night schedule, JT.
Oh, absolutely.
So I know you've not seen this show. I think it's well worth your time. Even if
also, it's not woke either.
Fatigue, it's not woke. It's a quality show.
I can't watch it, Dan, can I? Because I don't have a TV license, so I won't be interested. I won't watch it.
I think it's on catch up on Now TV, or it's been shown on other channels, so you can get it elsewhere.
I don't have it. I don't watch. I don't.
Dan, where is it come from originally? What channel was it on originally? Then where's it come from?
It's HBO had it first, and on America it was shown on HBO Max, and the CW had the repeats.
This is interesting. So I agree because I heard this was coming onto a Saturday, and I thought, hang on a minute, this is going to take them into the new year.
Yeah.
Because whether Doctor Who fans like it or not, Saturday nights in the United Kingdom are strictly night at this time of year.
Yeah.
It gets too many. It's not going away. It's already been recommissioned for another 2 or 3 series, so I hear. It's not going anywhere. And Saturday nights are huge. The public love Strictly Come Dancing. That's it. So I would think that what they're looking to do is find the ideal time zone for a brand new, all-new Doctor Who. And I actually reckon that with the experience of Julie, Jane, and Russell, Doctor Who will come back in 2023 or 2024 in the March Saturday night slot, where it did extremely well for them. And I think if this is going to run through this period now and it goes into that, I think they'll be looking at those ratings and say, well, what did it do with Strictly and what will it do without Strictly? And I think you're right, Dan. I think this is them looking again at that whole thing about how do we get the public back on a Saturday night on television, and what other shows do we need to commission next year for the year after to support Doctor Who?
I'm really surprised that they actually got an American show to be in that slot, because if you go back, it was Merlin, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we don't have anything. We don't have anything in Britain, do we? We don't have any British shows. So they have to have an American or Australian.
I know.
Or something.
That's why I'm really surprised that the BBC's not making new content for that slot. It's crazy.
Well, this could be that, because at the moment they haven't bothered.
Charlotte?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm also surprised that they've gone for Superman and Lois. Think about the demographic that usually watches BBC. That's not a demographic that would watch that, and it is complete genre. So it's really interesting that they've gone for that type of program.
Well, that's the reason I really do believe when I heard this. I think it was actually in Broadcaster Read this, Dan, or the Stage and Television Today, or one of them. And I thought, it's obvious what they could be trying to do. I read into it, what Dan's read into it, thinking, they're trying to find the slot for Doctor Who. And they've gone for genre deliberately, Charlotte, to say, right.
Fast. They need
absolutely. They've only got next year to do it, because I think Russell and Jane and Julie would have gone in and said, we want the old slot back, thank you very much, because we did very well in there, and we know they have to make it work. But it's also quite interesting that that sort of stuff usually goes to Sky, which is now Sky Glass, isn't it? So it's interesting that they managed to afford it from Sky, if you know what I mean.
Maybe nobody wanted to buy it.
If you look across to the chat, I think there was probably a bit of a bidding war for this. If you look across to the chat, this is a rare example where we've got blanket good recommendations on this show. Everybody seems to love it as much as I do. It was a show that we've talked about before on other shows, other podcasts and live streams on YouTube. It may not reinvent the wheel as such, but it's good, solid entertainment, good storytelling. And in the past, I've never been a big fan of Tyler Hoechlin, who plays both obviously Clark Kent and Superman in this, but he gradually wins me over to. It's just a very it's a quality show, and it's not led by anything political, which in this day and age is
less usual for them, isn't it?
Yeah, the BBC made a mistake. Do you reckon they made a mistake?
I haven't watched it.
Haven't watched it.
Maybe, but that's unusual for those shows because Supergirl went terribly woke, didn't it? And then you've got the fuss over Batwoman or whatever that one is, and didn't
absolutely.
Well, they all went that way, didn't it? I can't remember. There's loads of those shows, haven't they all gone like that? So this stands out. Yeah,
I'm afraid so.
Shocking.
Yeah, I think that that wraps it up for this week here on Type 40 Live. That's all our conversation points finished with. Please let us know what you think, whether you think we've got it all right or we've got it all wrong. Let us know in the comments section. Get interacting or throw your ideas out there for multiverse stories. What do you think of the whole idea about the multiverse and Doctor Who? Do you think it could possibly work or yield anything at all, or do you like the idea of maybe building a special around it, something to do with the anniversaries, or do you think that it is all just a stretch too far and that Doctor Who shouldn't be looking to run with any trend? It should be anticipating the next trend or setting the next trend for everybody else to follow the way that it used to. Let us know in the comment section. Let us know over on social media on Facebook and Twitter too. Let us know which of those companions of 2021 that you want us to award the title to on the big Christmas show in a couple of weeks. Let's take a look at some pretty pictures, everybody. Woo! What do you think?
Yay!
It's been all about the Beatles over on Apple.
I watched it.
Beatles documentary.
Have you watched it?
I haven't seen
yes.
it yet. Big Beatles fan, but I've seen this. This is I don't think it's a brand new painting by Andy Walker, but I absolutely love it. This is his tribute to Doctor Who
it's been
via the Beatles. I love that.
Cool.
And I didn't
but David Tennant doesn't look like David Tennant.
I was going to say,
David
Tennant.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. Of course, it does.
I love that he's got Herbie and the TARDIS in there on the left hand side.
Absolutely,
Love it.
Herbie,
Brilliant.
I always love a bit of
they
that.
don't make films like that anymore, do they, Herbie? No.
No.
Has anybody actually? I've once driven over this particular pedestrian crossing. Has anybody else driven over it? It's been over.
I've walked over it.
You walked over it. Wow.
I've walked over it as well. Yeah, you have to. It's the law.
It is bizarre though, because I remember when I was just driving through London at some point years ago and didn't realise I was about to. I wasn't going on a pilgrimage or anything. I just suddenly was like, "Hold on, look where I am." It was a momentary revelation.
I wanted to take my shoes off and walk barefoot.
Should have done, Ian. Should have done.
I wanted to do that.
Big freak.
That's when it's Andy. You made a mistake. You should have had one of them with no shoes on.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, I think I'd love to walk over that crossing as well, because I'm a huge Beatles fan. But somewhere I wouldn't like to find myself would be here amidst the Daleks here on this spacecraft against a rocky backdrop. That's one of the latest pieces from the CGI artist Ant Lam over on Twitter. A stunning piece.
That's beautiful.
Daleks and hoverbouts and saucers, Simon.
Oh, absolutely. That's real sort of TV 21 for the 21st century. I mean, that's brilliant. And what I love about this, I love those old the silver Daleks with blue balls, which is still my favourite livery of all time. But I love the way he's dirtied it down, and it's all
grimy.
Those are real work Daleks, aren't they? Beautiful. Absolutely. And the hoverbouts are phenomenal, and the saucers, guys, it's just beautiful. Fantastic.
It really is, isn't it? I mean,
show.
Ant Lam is my new favourite now with these pictures of the Daleks. A real genius, a creative genius here. But look at through that one. There's the series.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely. That's what I say. I want to see that show. That's the show I want to see.
Isn't it? It's absolutely stunning.
Beautiful. Daleks,
and it's even the setting there. You're thinking, where the hell are they?
Yeah,
I mean, the snow on the mountain. What are they up to? You do want to know more, don't you? It's so clever.
Yeah, it teases a story, as does this. This is a kind of bit of a tribute, I think, to the cult of Skaro Daleks, also from Ant Lam.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Dalek, you could almost the way the light is reflecting off the black Dalek in the middle.
Yeah.
You could almost touch that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise it though, Charlotte. I wouldn't advise it.
No, I love the light effects at the bottom. I think that looks gorgeous.
Some clever people out there, aren't there? In our fandom, especially, and it's just wonderful. It's a shame that they're not being utilised correctly.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that I love about this kind of stuff is it's very, very faithful and truthful to what has gone before. So this looks very modern and new and beautiful, but it's very respectful. I mean, the light that you've mentioned there, Charlotte, and I'm sure that comes from one of the TV21 comics or something like that. So it's very respectful of the past, and yet it's bringing it up to date. And that's what I love about this kind of stuff. And this is where the show just sort of goes so spectacularly wrong for me, because it's more this is the kind of Doctor Who I want to see.
Yes, me too. I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
Story, scale, menace, everything that the Daleks should be.
Yeah. Yep. And as I say, but crucially, respectful and recognising the past, rather than throwing it in the bin.
Yeah, and there's bound to be a new version of the Daleks on the way. So, Bad Wolf, BBC Studios, if you're watching,
get on
is
to
it.
Ant.
He's
been around for a while, but I think that he's gone next level. Certainly since lockdown, I think that's been the case with a lot of people, a lot of artists. They've sort of innovated and gone next level on whatever they're doing. I mean, Aidan Wilkinson, who does the TARDISes, I think he actually calls himself the TARDIS man. Yes. His TARDISes now look like you could reach out and touch them. And I remember when he was doing just 2-dimensional TARDISes to print out as stickers for people. It's extraordinary how people have come on. So yeah, I do love that Dalek. I also love this from Kieran Hyman did this, Simon. We spoke to Kieran about his colorization work. He works with Richard Tipple on Doctor Who. And this is his take on Tomb of the Cybermen. So he employed a certain amount of artistic licensing.
That's absolutely magnificent.
Artistic license, but it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It actually works.
Great.
You can see it's cold, but where the tombs are, they've warmed up to warm up the Cybermen. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. It's gorgeous.
That has literally given me shivers down my spine. The colour coming out of those tubes, that rich pink, that's fun, and the lighting, that's just magnificent.
It's very Doctor Who, isn't it, Simon?
Beautiful, absolutely.
Very Doctor Who. I love that. That's great.
It's very Kieran as well. He's a guy. I mean, obviously, the colorization that he does. He, they painstakingly research all the work that they put into all of that stuff. Him and Richard do. But here, there's several other pieces as well by Kieran. I'd certainly recommend you go and follow him on Twitter. And this is just something that he's been experimenting with lately, different ideas with lots of different stories. He's obsessed with, he's only about 25, but he's obsessed with 60s Doctor Who. And everything that he works on, is connected with the first and second Doctor. And it's really, really brave, I think, to go to something like this and to be this bold with it, and to be this creative. And I wonder if people, however he's seen this in his mind's eye, to communicate that. And obviously some people won't like it, because that's how that's the nature of these things. It's subjective. But I'm glad that you had the same reaction that I did there. All of you, I
want a print of that. I really want a print of that, Kieran. It's magnificent, that.
But that picture that Kieran did actually justifies Ian's point from last week's show, definitely, and perhaps shows before that. Tomb of the Cybermen could work as a recolored.
Absolutely, 100%.
Talking about colorization, I want to draw attention as well to Clayton Hickman. We've talked about Clayton's work quite a lot on this show over the months. He's been quiet for the last few weeks, and I wondered what was going on with Clayton. But then, of course, he announced yesterday it is now Advent, and he did this last year. He puts together his own Twitter-based Advent calendar, doesn't he, JT, where he opens a door for us every single day with a brand new image behind each and every one.
I know, he's totally mad. He's mad.
Have you seen what he's called this as well, this season?
No, I haven't. What's he called it?
He's called it The Joy of Sets. And the conceit is that every single colorization, he's putting out is a scene from the set of a Doctor Who story. Now, I would imagine they'll again all be 60s. Maybe there could be some from the 70s. I don't know. Maybe even the 80s, because come to think, there was a lot of black and white photography then, wasn't there? So forget what I was just saying.
There was, yeah.
But this is going to be 25 maybe a few more worth of colorizations of sets of actual Doctor Who. So this does show us those details that we could never have seen before, and puts into perspective, in some respects, just how small those studios were. But it's a great way for Clayton to show off his considerable skills in this field. And also, I think, even though it could break the spell for some, it also, I think it further convinces of the dedication and the artistry, the ingenuity of the people who worked on Doctor Who back in the 60s.
Can I just say to Richard, though, Richard's asking in the chat, is it the gunfighters? It isn't. It's the Highlanders. Look at the monitor in the top right-hand corner.
Yes, I should have said that, shouldn't I? Cool, says the Darren Zone. That's fantastic, says Sadako24. Really gorgeous. Lots and lots of compliments here. Hands clapping from Digby Strawbridge. Yeah, health and safety, they wouldn't let that fly now, would they, JT?
No, they would. I'm looking at that, just thinking, years ago when I first went into a TV studio, I thought there was a lot of cable back then, but it didn't seem to be as thick as that stuff is there. It's amazing, isn't it? Wow. Brilliant.
That just makes me want to see colorized stuff more and more. As in, I'm just desperate for that. If you're watching these videos, please colorize some black and white Doctor Who stuff.
Ian said in the past, haven't you, Ian, that you reckon that the technology will become affordable. So it's probably going to happen at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I do listen to you occasionally. You big mega geek. Not often, but
People have latched on to the joy of sets there, Clayton. If you are watching, a suggestive pun. How British. Lots of people love that. Oh my God.
Yes,
I love the way he says
up and
top right corner. There's JT fan there. Amazing work, says Retro Dicky. Oh, right, says the talents of Wang Chiang.
Yeah.
Lots of people, speculating as to what episode it could be. But thank you to everybody in the chat for all your comments this evening, all that interaction, all those gags, and the indulgence. Let us know what you think. Please like the video if you haven't already, particularly if you've been here for the entire time. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. So many people watch our stuff and don't subscribe. I get why. I get it. But you've seen enough by now. This is quality. Nobody does this better, do they? We've got 2 weeks to go until the Christmas show.
Yeah, the video, caress the video, take it for a slap-up meal, take it to a club, kissy.
Yeah, or we'll send the boys round.
Is that Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Santa, that's who it is.
It's Father Christmas.
Father Christmas.
Yeah, we'll send Chris Eccleston round to give you a good talking to if you don't sort that out.
Yeah, you don't want that. Don't mess with the Salford boy.
People are loving it. So I thought that would be a good note to end on. So there'll be another podcast coming up fairly soon here on the podcast feed and on the YouTube channel. So subscribe, hit the little cloister bell so you get those notifications. We're coming to the end of another block of live streams before the Christmas break. 2 more to go. Don't miss the next one next week from all of us here in the console room. And who knows, maybe we'll rope in Barnaby Jago. He's on his travels. He's acting somewhere now as we speak.
He's thespian, isn't he?
He's got a life.
He's thespian. I said thespian, you filthy lot. He's a thespian,
Maybe we could bring Starry-Eyed Girl back to the TARDIS as well. We shall see. But for now, thank you so much.
A mince pie should be here. Hey, Starry is a mince pie. Should be here like that.
My thanks to Simon Horton, thanks to Ian David Diaz, to the wonderful JT, and the lovely Queen Charlotte Shields. It's been a blast as always. I'll speak to you all again soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.